Hey guys, what's up? It's a TechKnow Podcast. Third episode. We got a bunch of cool stuff to talk about today. Really heavy on the AMD stuff. But first, we got some more important things, I guess, to talk about. First thing is we're going to talk about Qualcomm does confirm that the S23 is going to only use the Snapdragon chipset, specifically the Gen 8 2. Quick opinions. First opinions, Dithya.
That is huge in my I don't think people understand how big of a deal this is. Because you have to look at it in a macro scale because Samsung has historically chosen what chips go in products by region. So typically Western countries will get the better Snapdragon chip and Eastern countries would get absolutely uh just neglected with
Destroyed,
their
yeah.
with their own Exynos product that would be much worse, slower and worse battery life. So them doing Snapdragon Gen 8 2 over everything is a good move for the consumer because it means this reviews are consistent everywhere, right? Which is nice. There is one caveat though, which I'm gonna let you speak first, but then you can go
Okay.
ahead and try to guess my caveat after your point, and I'll let you
We'll
know
see.
what
I'm
it
bad
is.
at guessing this stuff, but yeah. Well, really big point coming off the Snapdragon Gen A2. There have been rumors that it does outperform the A16. That's Apple's chip,
Yep,
which
A16
if
Bionic.
Bionic chip, if that happens, that's actually I think crazy. And then also another just interesting fact. I don't know much about it. I don't think anyone really does, or probably they do. But you know how like when we're talking about Intel and stuff, right, or AMD, we have two core architecture, not or two types of CPUs, right? You got the big
Mm-hmm.
little.
Yep, big dot little.
The Gen 2 has four types of CPUs in it.
Okay.
So we're gonna see. Apparently that they're reaping the rewards of it. So we'll
That
just
that is
see.
actually really interesting because typically on mobile chips it's three at the moment.
Yeah,
You'll have really low end efficiency cores, and you'll have the middle cores, and you'll have like the really fast and X series cores at the top for ARM based CPUs. So that's very interesting.
it's true. And what was your point you were gonna make? A little caveat.
Take a guess at
Yeah, I
why
don't.
a bit iffy. It has. I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Tensor,
Tensor Cores Pixel. Are you talking about the Pixel or?
kind of. What I was mainly getting at is I wish they kind of went in their own route away from Snapdragon with producing their own chip.
That's
Because then they
true.
get to design it from the ground up. They get to really optimize. Like you seen what's gone on with Tensor. Tensor's actually like, I'm not gonna say a slow chip because I, for the last couple of years, uh, gone into arguments with people above like chip speeds for phones. Like I think they're fast enough, quite frankly. uh, so I'm more about efficiency, but if you look like Tensor is way slower than current gen chips at the moment. So them not designing their own chip is kind of it's kind of crazy if you really think about it.
That's true. I think they're still keeping design on the Exynos, but we're not seeing in the flagships because I would actually be really bummed
Yeah,
out
no, they
if
definitely
we
are.
stop seeing that because I know they were putting Arduino 2 in it, right?
Hmm.
So if it's not on there anymore, right? Like if we're not gonna see, I want to really see like an actual mobile version of it. You know what I mean? Like phone
Yeah.
spec, not laptop, mobile.
Hmm.
Because I mean, the whole point of RDNA was like they're like, oh, we can scale it, like it's super scalable. I don't think we ever really saw like the full potential
Yeah, for
on the
sure.
like phone world.
Yeah.
We'll see how it does on like other low end specs,
Especially since
phones and stuff
Tensor
like that.
is an Exynos product. A lot of people don't know it because Google doesn't really brand it that way. Tensor uses Exynos cores and Exynos design, and Samsung fabs it. Everything is Samsung,
That's
except
true.
Google
Yeah,
is the one who submits the design for what they want. Uh, so it's kind of interesting with like obviously in the last couple months with Pixel 7 launching, you've seen a lot of positive press around Tensor 2 and the way it performs, how it's super optimized and it's really all they need. They didn't go for the fastest chip, and Google's been
mm,
like openly proud of that. So it's
That's
kind of
true.
interesting to see Samsung not utilize their own resources to kind of gain the same effect. Uh, but again, with that speed thing, oh, by the way, with speed, we're not talking about CPU performance. We're talking about GPU performance. CPU is still probably going to be a little bit lower. I'd expect it to land right in between the A16 Bionic and the Google Tensor chip, but GPU performance should be faster. The interesting part about that is that's mainly what matters now because all of the machine learning stuff is done on the GPU side.
That's true.
Uh,
Yep.
so that's gonna be important, and it's definitely believable because MediaTek, who doesn't make the best chips, especially compared to Samsung, they've been kind of losing in the last couple of years. For the actually like for I don't know as long as I can remember. Uh, so MediaTek actually I forgot what the chip is, but uh, they actually just made a chip that outperforms the A16 Bionic and GPU, and Tensor did too. So Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 will definitely do it. The main part I'm interested in see is how close can that CPU performance get and how efficient it is, because that's really what Apple like knocks it out of the park with. Like I say, most chips are fast enough for most things.
Yep.
But the A16 sips power beautifully. It's like again, like every chip since like the A12, it's just so much more efficient than what we have over here on Android. So it'll
That's
be interesting
true.
to see that.
Do you know what node the A16's on?
Uh, no clue.
Off the top
If
of your
I had
head?
to guess, TSMC 6.
6N, right? I'm gonna guess.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they brand it like the way Nvidia did recently, where they say like like a special Apple version of it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like how they did 4N for Nvidia. We don't know what that N entails, but it's based off of
That's true.
TSMC 4.
Okay. I thought the 6N, I know the 6N at least, or if it's a different name for TSMC, right? It was the 7
Mm-hmm.
nanometer with higher density, and then you could port over the 7 nanometer design to 6 nanometer without changing, like an overhaul.
Oh,
Usually, you know
okay.
how architectures are built on nodes, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that was the benefit of 6. I think that's why not that you don't see a lot of
Oh,
6
it's
products, right?
they called it
Yeah.
N4, but it's actually a enhanced version of their TSMC's 5 nanometer node.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Because I guarantee you they were working on 5, right, or something. And
Mm,
then TSMC came along and was like, "Oh, we can actually put you down to 4, right? Or like transistors like density." And they're like, "Bet."
yep.
That's the only way I would see that happening.
And it makes sense too because if you look at it, a lot of articles will uh not I wouldn't say misleadingly because they probably don't realize it, but name it incorrectly, calling it 4 nanometer, when it's really a denser 5. But because they named it N4,
Hmm.
they get confused. So it leads to good press. You get the performance out of it, and really it doesn't hurt anyone. But I guess it's somewhat misleading. But Apple doesn't. They're not a company that flexes processes, so I guess it's
Yeah,
not that misleading to be honest.
I've honestly I can't recall the time. What besides from these M1s,
They'll
right?
like put it up on the keynote and just say we're using the latest TSMC
That's true,
process,
yeah.
but they're
But
not
they
like using 4 nanometer TSMC technology. That's not what they do.
that's true, no, yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's not really that's also not the sell point of Apple, you know what I mean?
Also,
You're not
like
using 4
Apple,
nanometers
they
and
don't
stuff,
really
yeah.
talk to nerds. Like that's not their core audience. So like them
That's
saying
true.
that it doesn't help. Like people are just gonna be like, what does that mean? Like what? Like you got to think about the people that are watching these keynotes. I mean, the keynotes play in Best Buy when they're on. So
Oh, actually?
yeah, they play on the Apple TVs and Best Buy whenever the keynotes are on. Fun fact.
Damn. Not know that.
I guess that's up to Best Buy's local Apple reps
Discretion?
though
Yeah.
to remember to do that. Some are probably less diligent than others.
Okay, let's transition from here and we can talk about another thing that is not RDNA so far. Well, we're talking about consoles, right? And then so obviously PS3, right? Let's start off with that. Really good console, right? Like I think honestly,
Don't
or
say
like I liked
that. You were
Xbox
on the
too.
other team.
I did no. I had a PS3 too. My dad used it. You know, the
You
goated. It was
did?
the DVD player. It was a DVD player. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
dude, that's a
No,
classic. That's a classic. DVD
it's a
player
classic.
PlayStation.
Yeah. And then no, but I used to play PlayStation before I had the Xbox. But like, it
Then
was
why
always
didn't
in
we
like the.
play? Why did you keep playing
It was in the
Xbox?
living room. It was in. I didn't like.
It's not
I
like the
just played
Xbox was in
like
your
Little Big
room.
Planet. Yeah, but it wasn't like in the
Little Big Planet is
sound
good.
surround sounds room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Little Big Planet was good though. Side note. But anyways,
Oh yeah.
so obviously really good console, great console, right? Um,
Interesting console. Like most.
interesting console
Honestly,
too.
the PS5 is the least interesting PlayStation in a long time.
I think that's
When it
the
comes to
trend now these
quirkiness,
days. Yeah,
yeah.
because like I don't even know why they did that. They used to do that, but like I know for now, like obviously, like if you look at the Xbox One compared to PC, and you look at the PS5 compared to the PC, there's not that much difference, right? Um, I know like with the PS3 you're
Externally,
talking about,
yeah. Internally,
yeah,
there
but the
still is a lot of stuff that PlayStation does differently,
that's
but
true.
no, I
But
get your point.
it's obviously gonna be easier to port like a PlayStation 5 game
Oh, for
now
sure.
than it is a PS3 game. The PS3
For
had the
sure.
like that central CPU and it had like 8 helper CPUs, something like
Yep.
that. I don't remember the actual
Dude,
like
chiplet before
technicalities of it.
chiplet.
It was chiplet before chiplet. But then obviously that's why like you saw like games got better as the PS3 aged though, even though the actual like hardware wasn't changing, right? Just because obviously libraries and stuff were being optimized for it, or like the SDKs were getting developers.
Mm-hmm.
But then obviously all that hassle, right? All those 8 chipsets, the eight chiplets they had, did lead them to losing over $240 at launch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result, remember the Epic versus Apple lawsuit, right?
Yep.
Over Fortnite. So I'm pretty sure they subpoenaed Microsoft for it, and Microsoft admitted that they lose between $100 to $200 on every Xbox it sells, like currently, right now,
Mm-hmm.
depending on whether it's the X or the S.
I mean, that
I
makes
think is
perfect sense
crazy.
though if you think about it.
No,
I
that's
don't I
true.
don't honestly think it's crazy.
But to
Uh
still be losing that much now,
I
like
this
think how
late,
much
yeah,
they,
no. Normally
yeah.
it's supposed to like not be that bad like later in the life cycle.
Just
So I
they
guess
break
that's
pop,
pretty bad.
yeah.
Uh but yeah, no. Quick history lesson though. The reason why I said PlayStation quirkies and whatnot, right? PS1 was obviously just weird because it was, one of the first gaming consoles that was, like in
I
that
mean, go to
format.
design, bro. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love the PS1's design. The gray, I love it. Two, so the thing that made the two weird, one, it was obviously just the best console of its time. But also, do you know why the PS2 is I don't know if it still is, but it was just like you know why it's so high up on like sales leaderboards for consoles of all time?
I do not know, do not recall.
So, AV customers, audio video customers, are some of the
Hmm.
easiest people to scam, right? Uh,
Yeah.
when it comes to getting people to spend too much, audio video customers are where it's at. So during the times of the PS2, high end DVD players were very gate kept at high prices, right? So Sony decided, being the audio video company they are, since they practically shoot every movie on a Sony camera ever, like they decided to put a very good DVD player integrated in the PS2. So
Oh
when you
yeah.
pulled up to Best Buy and they were telling you about what to buy for a DVD player, they'd say, "Hey, you can buy this DVD player for $500, or I don't know the exact price, or you could buy this PS2, which has just as good of a DVD player and much more, for still $500." And so it sold crazy. And then obviously with the PS3 it was weird because there's so many iterations of it. The original one had a full PS2 built in for backwards compatibility, lots of USB ports. It was huge. Then they made the slim. Then they made the super slim. So there's a lot going on with the PS3. PS4, it was just the slim, the pro, and the four. Uh, but it was kind of a turning point when it came to them spending a bunch of money for exclusives, for multiplayer exclusives. And then the five is just, you know, it's a normal console. I think it's a better console, but it's not really that much different than Xbox. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it really. Yeah, I feel like with PS5, Xbox, you're really buying into like ecosystem really right now, right? And
Yep.
there's really not much. I feel like we've kind of just like unified ish on like tech specs. You know what I mean?
It's about to break back up because of what Microsoft did, making that play on Activision Blizzard
Crazy. Well, they said they're gonna actually support. Well, I know
for at least 4 years. They
at
said,
least yeah.
which
So we'll
is
see what
crazy. I
happens.
thought that move should have been blocked by someone. That move is gonna potentially ruin gaming.
We'll see.
We
We'll
actually
see
have
what they do
Blizzard
with
stuff
it.
later on, but yeah. But
That's
yeah,
true. Yeah.
losing 1 to 200 on every console, people don't realize this. I mean, just think about it. Think about how fast next gen consoles are when they launch compared to current PC technology, but how much cheaper they are. You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
Like
Yeah.
even now, like dude, imagine building a Xbox Series X or PS5 competitor when they launched at $500. You
No,
were
it would have
not
been a
gonna
surf.
do that.
No,
Like it
yeah.
wasn't gonna happen. So part of the reason they can do that is because they know they're gonna get you with these subscriptions and these really expensive games and these licensing fees and these store licensing fees. Like they have so many avenues of revenue. They just have to make sure you choose them. That's the only point. You choose them, and the second you choose them, as long as you don't just buy it and let it sit there, and you buy like 2 or 3 games, they're fine. They're good.
That's true. Yeah. I think also surprising. You know who doesn't sell their consoles at a loss leader?
Nintendo.
Nintendo. Nintendo has never
I
sold
mean,
it at a loss,
Nintendo
which is
just has a
interesting.
monopoly on their type of customer. So,
That's true.
yeah.
They make
I
six
mean,
dollars per Switch,
I actually
which
knew
doesn't seem
that.
like a lot.
That's
Yeah,
public
but like
information.
apparently, I think it got subpoenaed also.
Well, I can confirm that's correct.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. I was so confused when you said that. I was like, is he allowed to know this?
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, I was like, I thought you like also just knew it off the top of your head.
Because
Okay,
funnily enough, that's the one console I get a discount on, and it's roughly $6.
no, yeah, that's hilarious. But hey, yeah, that's actually crazy that Nintendo doesn't sell it at
I
a
mean, it makes
price, like at a
sense. I mean,
loss.
it's like
Yeah,
a phone with a little bit cooler stuff on it for
I mean, yeah,
$300. I mean,
just to
but
charge you.
all of Nintendo's money is dumped into R&Ds and taking down YouTube videos of supporters. So, yeah,
That's true. They have to fund the legal arm somehow.
exactly.
Well, I feel like also just like, what do you think the next Nintendo console is gonna look like then? I feel like we've gone away from stationary.
Switch Pro.
Switch Pro, but I feel like that's the equivalent of just having a PS5 Pro. Like,
Oh, the
do you think we're
next? Don't
like
think there will
next
be
next
one for
like?
a while.
Do you think it's gonna be like a
I think
DS
the
thing
dude,
where you
I
go from
don't
like
think
DS,
people
3DS?
understand how much of a hit this Switch was.
No, it honestly was.
Like we've seen so much stuff leaked about Switch Pros and stuff because it exists, because it's been developed on, but they're not going to release it. You know why? They sell Switches so easily, bro. Switches were selling like 25 million a year like 4 or 5 years after the Switches launched.
No, it's crazy.
They sell so well. Like the Switches are literally like kids every like it's the same thing as the DS. They sell so well. Why are you gonna replace what you don't have to? Like Nintendo's not a company that likes to go get it. They like to
I
just
don't have to be.
control their
Yeah.
ecosystem. Yeah, they don't have to be. But like obviously we'd want to see a Switch Pro because the truth is Switch games are starting to run really bad on Switch. uh,
Yeah.
but it makes sense because do you know what architecture that Tegra chip inside of a Switch is running?
NVIDIA. I don't remember, but I
It's
do.
running on Pascal. No, I
God.
mean Maxwell. Sorry, not even
Maxwell.
Pascal. It's on
That's
900 series
900. Yeah.
architecture. Imagine if they even jump to like say the Switch Pro releases in 2 years. Imagine if they jump to or like next year. Imagine if they jumped to just like RTX 3000 series and didn't put any ray tracing in it because I think it'd be pointless in something like that. But could you imagine the performance uplift? Think about how much has changed since
No,
900
for
series
sure.
GPUs.
I mean, we've gone what? We have 10. We have the 10
It's
series,
over
11.
double, triple the
Oh,
speed.
yeah,
Because the
actually
10
crazy.
series was a big upgrade in both efficiency and performance. The 20 series kind of sucked, admittedly, but it was still an upgrade. And it mainly sucked because the 10 series was so good. Like the
That
10
was,
series,
yeah.
and then Nvidia realized they could charge whatever they want. And then the 30 series was also a huge improvement. Ampere was great, and like somehow if they get 40 series technology in there, that's a massive improvement. So I'd love to see a new Tegra chip. Also because I'm an NVIDIA Shield user, so yeah,
Oh, you
really
actually use
want.
a shield?
Yeah, in our living room in the apartment, we use a Shield. You think I was gonna use
Uh,
Samsung Tizen? Bro, get out of your
Bro, I
mind. Tried it
don't
out
even
for
have a
2 days.
TV.
Literally, I'm not even kidding. Moved in, me and my roommates dealt with it for like a day and a half, and I said nah, and I went and bought a Shield immediately.
Good stuff, honestly.
But yeah, like the Tegra is so old. Like the thing is not changing for. I mean, look at the last time Nvidia released a Shield TV. Like Tegras are so underpowered and old. I wouldn't be surprised if phone processors starting to catch up or have caught up. So yeah, I mean,
It's-
one day Switch Pro. But they already released a Switch OLED, and it was bigger than just an OLED upgrade.
that's what I was about to say. Yeah. Do you
Wasn't a
remember the
performance
details about
upgrade.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
OLED screen, bigger screen. And the main thing was better dock for connectivity. But the biggest thing in my opinion, other than the screen, obviously, was the kickstand. You know how like this your sister has a Switch, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know how the kickstand's like really flimsy and it pops off all the time?
Yeah.
The kickstand on the Switch Pro is like the entire back, the bottom half of it. So it's much nicer.
Oh, yeah, it comes. Yep, yep.
Yeah. No performance upgrades though. But like if they released a better Tegra, kept the OLED screen or maybe even upgraded it and put like better Joy-Cons that don't drift with like Holodeck joysticks, like bro, that Switch would be legendary for years.
Yeah, I'm just surprised. I'm surprised we haven't gotten like a little refresh, I guess. Well, I guess because they sell so much, it doesn't matter.
Oh, 100% it
Usually,
doesn't matter. I
yeah.
guarantee you if Switch sales drop, they'd release something within like 6 months. They probably have it ready
No,
to go. Not like produced, but like you think they haven't figured out R&D on something that's like the initial R&D for the Switch is probably confusing, right? Cuz like the Joy-Cons and whatnot.
no,
But
I
you're
wouldn't.
telling
That's
me
definitely a lot of money. Yeah.
that Nintendo has not figured out the R&D for the next Switch 5 years after? Like what? The 5 years is the whole console generation on like that's a whole graphics card generation. Like yes, they figured out what they want to do. They haven't produced it, but they're not going to release it if they don't have to cuz then they're just missing out on opportunity costs, right? Like why not just
Yeah,
sell cheaper hardware for the same price for a longer time? Because the truth is Nintendo fans can't get Nintendo games anywhere else. It's not like consoles where they can switch to PC or they can switch to the other console. You know what I mean?
that's true.
But yeah.
I feel like I don't even know what I was gonna say there. Honestly, I feel like I'm just surprised. Like, I obviously I know like there's not any competition in that like segment, right? So really,
Mhm.
they're not incentivized to actually do anything. But like, I would have expected at least like maybe some like not even like like even if they call it refreshes, like new models came with like more battery life or something like that. You know, stuff that doesn't really
Oh,
like
like stuff like the serial number changes or whatnot, but
yeah,
or like
like
the
the
model
battery life
number slowly
increases.
changes. Yeah.
Or they like
Uh
slightly bump up the speed of like the cores. So then like technically like the games run all the same, but like the
yeah.
headroom's a bit better. You know what I mean? Like it's a bit less stuttering. It's effectively like if we look at the other consoles, like I know for Xbox, right? When we had Xbox One,
They've had one little refresh. I
it's
don't know exactly what they did on it, or if it was a big hardware thing, right?
yeah.
Uh, but they did refresh it to make it much harder to jailbreak. Because I know if you look on the secondhand market,
Oh, that's
switches with a
true.
certain serial number or model number go for a lot more if they're like in the years where they could be jailbroken. Because I was looking at selling mine, and I bought mine on release day.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I was gonna say because I know like if you look at Xbox One, Xbox One S, right? Like they kind of just bumped up the frequency a bit on the CPU GPU cores,
Yeah.
and that's all they did for like improvements to hardware. And the only other like benefit you got was that the power brick came inside,
Mm-hmm.
but then like it made it slightly smoother. Like if you're playing stuff that like where like maybe like you know how like the explosions or something like where it starts getting graphically intensive, you might
Yeah.
come out like a bit better. I'm honestly
Mm-hmm.
surprised they haven't done something like that. Well, I guess you're not like your yield's not getting any better on Maxwell GPUs.
Yeah.
So
It's Integra. It's just Integra. Uh, do you don't play Switch, right? Like personally,
nah, not really. Yeah,
does your sister play any like modern Switch games, or is it just Animal Crossing?
I'm pretty sure it's just like very like not like indie style. You know what I mean? Like not very like
Mm.
AAA type.
Yeah. So she
Like
hasn't
crazy.
mentioned anything about it like slowing down or whatever.
No,
Because I
is
know a
that
lot of people are
issue?
starting to notice it. Like even in Zelda, which launched like very early, uh, with the Switch, I know people noticed performance differences. I
Uh,
think backwards compatibility would be a big thing though. I want like a DS slot on the Switch for real.
uh,
I don't know how
I was
that'd work
thinking
because
about
there's not
that.
two screens, but DS
That's actually
Switch, dual
crazy.
screen Switch. Is that the next
That would
one?
be
Did I
crazy.
predict it?
That's a laptop at that point. Oh my god! Wait till the web browser comes in to the thing.
PictoChat 2, The Return of the King.
I'm surprised. Honestly, I feel like a really good money making opportunity, especially since they're gonna charge $70 for it probably. If they just ported all the Nintendo's DS games, or like a
Mm-hmm.
good chunk of them over to Switch.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're probably also just running into I don't know really like architecture wise how the Nintendo Switch is, right? But not the Switch, my bad. The DS.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's something like the what do you call it? Unless it's something like the PS3. Yeah, like I know it's hard, like it's easier. I'm pretty sure it's easier to emulate the PS4 than it is a PS3 because just
Yeah, the
how
PS3 had
complicated the
such a
PS3 was.
goofy layout.
Yeah, and that's like I know like the new Zen processors are actually like increase like the AVX 512 performance like since
Mm-hmm.
it's really good actually like I don't know I don't want to sound wrong but I think it's like 15% faster.
It's no, it's a
I think
lot better for
yeah,
AVX 512.
but in PS3 emulation
Mm-hmm.
because like a lot of times it's actually really interesting that like the games like you know Dolphin emulator
Yeah.
like the GameCube one right like the
Mm-hmm.
GameCube Wii one that one gets like a lot of times a performance increase doesn't come from them coding. It comes from CPU architecture changes.
Mm.
That just makes it easier to do like weird stuff that like those consoles did.
What was that one stat you always used to tell me about how much power it takes to emulate something? Used to be
Oh,
like,
two
oh, it,
generations? I think it's
yeah.
yeah. That was a
What
good stat.
what
I
is it?
think it's like I think it's two generations. It takes two generations to do what you could have done. Like to be able like the power like a PS5 can should be able to do like or like a PS5 spec wise computer can like emulate a PS3.
I see.
I think you skip it technically if you think about it, you skip a generation on like the console side, and at that
Mm-hmm.
point you should be able to like smoothly run stuff.
Yeah. He's not. Yeah. By the way, he's not talking about like running games. Like obviously that makes no sense. He's talking about just like fully emulating and getting the same performance.
That's true. Yep. Oh, okay. So I just pulled up the Nintendo DS things, and they ran ARM chips on it
I was about to say, I feel like they'd just be like phone processors
with
or
four
something like that.
megabytes of RAM.
Oh, dude, they were killing the game back then.
So I don't.
You
I
already
mean,
know, like my giant
uh,
Picto chat message. Like when I just colored the whole thing black and sent it out, that's like 3 megabytes of RAM filled up right there.
that was the original one. I don't know how hard that would be. I guess I mean if it's ARM, if it was like not like a specific like in-house version of ARM or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be that hard. Yeah, so the 3DS used ARM 11.
What about like, oh, the 3DS did? Dude, think about how like
Yeah.
crazy before the time 3DS was with like amiibos and stuff.
That was
Those are
actually
like
crazy.
still a thing. Dude, they really beat Meta at their own game.
They really
Meta's trying
did.
to do all this crap now. Bro, Nintendo had it done before y'all.
Oh wait, pause. Wait a second. I didn't even see this. On the 3DS, right? They were using two different like architectures of ARM. Or
What?
like,
For how? What? How are
well,
they
they were using
communicating?
ARM 11, right? And then
Uh
they were
huh.
using ARM 9.
For what?
I
For
don't know,
GPU
but those are like
CPU?
I I feel like it has to be the no, no, GPU is a completely different thing. But the Pika 200, so that's ooh, I don't even know if you're gonna see like 3D. That's actually crazy. Two different architectures in like one.
They really jumped
Um,
through some hoops back then to get things out.
yeah, it's actually crazy.
Nowadays, it's just like, hey, NVIDIA, give me Tegra. Cool.
Oh, same thing. Ooh, wow, same thing for the DS. I think. Oh, they might have kept the 9 for compatibility. 'Cause I'm seeing here it's 9.7 on the DS, and they went to 11.9 for the 3DS.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because the DS could emulate Game Boy, so that'd be 7. Not Game Boy, what was it? Was it Game
Oh,
Boy?
this was big. It was Game Boy, wasn't
Yeah, so
it? Game Boy
yes.
Advance, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I had the 7, and then the 9 was for itself.
Oh, this
And
has to be
then,
crazy. Wait, it was the 7.
bro, I'm a
Oh,
genius.
oh my
I
God,
figured
it's
it
actually
out.
crazy. That's actually, if you think about it, if we're right, it's actually really crazy. They just smacked, like they kept another chip on
Look
it,
at
right?
Nintendo back then being the good guys instead of just being the most anti-consumer company God could have created.
I'm guessing. Okay, one second. I'm actually interested in this now. If we look at the GameCube, right? So the GameCube was on a Power PC, and then what's 1 TS RAM? That's interesting. So let's look at the Wii. The Wii. Also, another thing, like, obviously, like if we're talking about the Switch being underpowered, the
Hmm.
Wii came out extremely underpowered, but they knew it was going to be underpowered. And I feel like really the Kinect is what sold, not the Kinect, like their version of the Kinect was really what sold it. I feel like,
Just the motion tracking, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I mean,
it
yeah,
was all.
it was, dude. The Wii was so fun. We have a Wii in our apartment.
The normal one or like that red one, the smaller one they like introduced.
No, the normal one.
Look this
Actually,
up. Apparently,
no, we might have a black Wii. I'm not sure.
it had
You know
Bluetooth.
the one with the Wii. What was it? What was the black one?
Uh,
The one that had like you could get the black controllers or the add-ons for the controllers for like advanced tracking for like Wii Sports Resort.
oh, but that's just a normal one. The normal extension was just like regular.
Oh, okay.
Do you
Yeah.
know what you're talking about? The black Wii that kind of looked like a Wii U ish. They have
Man,
like a blue highlight.
I've only ever played Wii U once before, and it was at a friend's house. I never owned a Wii
Me
U.
too. I did not either. I'm surprised they kind of stuck to that. Like they went from, oh, we have a screen here, right? We're gonna do
Hmm.
the same thing, but mobile, like just completely,
Bro,
like no,
yeah,
like,
it was a smooth transition. Think about it. Wii, right? Then the Wii
mhm.
U, and they just took the gamepad of the Wii U and chucked the Wii out, and were like, "Here's the Switch."
And then, but the Wii U had Wii support, right? I'm thinking,
It did.
but I don't think it had GameCube support, if I'm right.
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Oh, it is. Wow. Oh wait, there's two different. Huh? Oh, apparently there's two different. Oh, for the Wii,
Yeah,
there's
it's
like
two
models that did.
versions.
Well, Wii does not support Nintendo GameCube, which
Mm.
is interesting because they do have the same. They're both on Power PC, so I don't know really what changed between that, but I forgot. Was there anything special about the black one? I don't remember.
Uh, I think there was because the black one and the black controllers had the stuff built in like the advanced motion tracking.
Oh, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Because
Oh,
you
it
know how
wasn't
Wii Sports
the yeah,
Resort
yeah.
needed it?
You needed the thing, yeah.
Because it came with Wii Sports Resort. The original Wii came with Wii Sports. Wii U came with Wii Sports Resort. Not Wii U, the black Wii. But then you can also
But
use your old controllers by adding on that little thing at the bottom, that
yeah.
nub. For some reason, that was enough to get it to work.
Oh, but you know what? Your Wii doesn't have GameCube support on it.
I never said it did.
I know, but that's the difference. It was like called like the family edition because they like
Oh,
reduced the
okay.
it was like the whole thing. And apparently they came out with the red one, which
We
is
might have a white Wii. I don't know. we have a Wii. That's all I know.
good stuff. And there's the Wii Mini apparently, which is no GameCube support, no Wi-Fi, no
Dang.
SD card.
And I guess
And
no
then
Wi-Fi
no
doesn't matter anymore.
I
Because the
guess,
servers are
yeah.
gone.
What's homebrew now, isn't it?
It's what?
If you want to do if you want to do stuff on homebrew,
Can
like
you?
if you cracked it, yeah, I
I
think
feel
so.
well if you cracked it, yeah.
I think it's super easy. I think you just buy a game, and that game
Well,
has like a
yeah, no, I
buffer
don't think it'd
overflow
be
thing.
hard, but I mean, like, Nintendo customers,
That's true, yeah.
just people trying to give their kids a console, and then adults trying to be kids, which I understand, honestly. If if I could, like, if the Switch was good and they released a Pokemon game I was truly interested in, oh, I'd buy it in a second. Like, I
I
bought
wouldn't be surprised.
the original Switch on launch day just because of Smash Bros. I probably put like 10 hours on the thing, but I don't know. Just still have it. But yeah, like speaking of another popular game company, Blizzard, you know, now part of Activision obviously. But if you guys know Overwatch, their successor Overwatch 2 actually launched very recently. And there's been so much controversy around this game. Like an inconceivable amount of controversy. You know what I mean? And it has to do around what I like to call what happens when companies think they can be Fortnite. So let's just go through a list of things that Blizzard. So if you didn't know, loot boxes, which was a big part of Overwatch 1, don't exist anymore. They actually open them all for you, and then transition your account over to Overwatch 2.
I'm sorry, that was like the funniest thing. Have
Yeah,
you seen the
people saved up
XQC
like
clip?
thousands of them. Yes, it was
That was so
hilarious.
funny. That was like I felt so bad for him, but like
Yeah,
that definitely sucks for the people that were holding on to that.
for sure. But so instead, now you get an item shop and a battle pass. So the battle pass, first of all, sucks. I bought it. Terrible. There's literally nothing in it except one cool skin at the end. And there's an item shop, which, by the way, guess how much a legendary skin costs in Overwatch 2?
In like dollars or
In just currency, like something you'd have to go and slave away for in the real world.
like I'm gonna guess like $10.
$20
It's criminal.
for a
That's
first
insane.
person game. By the way, it's not like Fortnite where you see your skin. You get to see your hands and like a bit of your weapon and some cooler animations.
Oh, that's crazy. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And this is the funniest part, right? If you played legitimately and like earned every single token you could, so you played perfectly, right? Guess
Mm-hmm.
how much pure raw playtime it would take to unlock all of the old content from Overwatch 1.
Gotta be a crazy amount.
351 years of playtime to unlock old content, not new content from Overwatch 1. 350. Let me tell you something. That is generations of playing. Okay? I don't know about you,
Right.
Liam, but I don't expect my great grandkids to also be trying to use my
That's
account to unlock Overwatch skins.
that's 6 generations of this year.
And by then, there's
You
gonna be
know.
more skins, so nobody's getting anywhere. But yeah. Also, Overwatch when it released was one of the biggest competitive games in the world, right? Like
Oh, for
Overwatch League
sure.
was so huge. Like Overwatch League, think about how crazy it is that cities had their own teams. You know how like
London
outrageous
Spitfire,
that is?
yeah.
Yeah, like San Francisco Shock, like the Philadelphia
Shanghai
Fusion,
Dragons,
Shanghai
yeah.
Dragons, like bro, crazy. So it's, when you think of Overwatch, naturally you think a competitive shooter, right? With abilities. They're locking characters behind paywalls now. So now characters are in battle passes, new characters, right? So this new character, forgot what the name of it is, but it's like in the same family of species that Zenyatta's in. That's a tank.
Yeah.
It is, you either buy the battle pass and you get it, or you have to level up all the way to level 55 on the battle pass, which is not really that easy without having the battle pass and or playing the game a bunch.
Yeah, but they also they're down to one tank, right? It's 5v5 instead of 6v6, isn't it?
Correct.
Do you like that or
Oh,
opinions on
I
that?
love it for gunplay. I don't know if they
Oh,
had
is
to
it actually
do
okay?
down to one tank, because the thing
I
is,
thought it was
not only
okay.
they decreased it to one tank, right? They
Yeah.
also got rid of a lot of the shields in the game. So the only one
Okay.
who really has a shield anymore is Reinhardt. Winston still has one, but it's like a bubble that he drops down that's not that strong. But what that does is like there's a lot more shooting. So like now Orisa tanks still very well. Like tanks are still super strong. Orisa's super strong. Zarya's super strong. Zarya's too strong actually. But you're not playing shield shooting simulator anymore. So that's the good thing. But yeah, I think one tank is great. Uh, they act like Overwatch. The gameplay of it is actually like really good right now. Like there's like
Okay.
some game breaking bugs, which like really pisses me off because like you're putting all this time into like trying to take people's money, but you can't keep all the characters in the game at any point because you just
Yeah.
cannot fix their issue. Like every week, there's some character that's been taken out of the game. Like it's so stupid. Right now, it's May, but
Oh, Mesa out of the game?
yeah, May's out of the game.
For bug reasons or
Bug reasons, yeah. And before it was
okay.
Winston, and before that it was Bash. Not Winston, it was Bastion. Uh, who else? They're dude. They've been taking people out left and right. It's outrageous. Uh, but yeah, so that's kind of crazy. Um, another one. So what I was saying about there's one good skin in the battle pass, right? So they introduced a new skin tier called Mythic. So that's supposed
Okay.
to be the top one now. Guess so like this is mind-boggling. Guess how much time Blizzard claims it takes to make a mythic skin?
We'll go with a few months.
A year.
Damn. That's
So I want you to go look up this skin. Look up Cyber Demon Genji. And tell
kind of a good
me
name, but
who spent a year making that.
nah.
It is a good
That's it
skin, but there's literally just as good skins that didn't take a year.
looks like a bear brick.
Oh
You
my
know what that
god.
is? Like
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I actually have that same bear brick.
The vibe of that.
Yeah, it definitely isn't that the vibe, like just the way the colors are and everything. Like
Yeah, it
if
kind of
you're
is.
looking top up, yeah.
Bro, if I had an employee spend a year making that, I would fire myself for being stupid enough to let that happen.
As you should.
You know how dumb it is to spend a year making a skin? Like, apparently, I don't believe it at all. But, like, let's say it's true. Let's say you spent a year making Cyber Demon Genji, but somehow the battle pass is going to flip every 55 days, and there's going to be one mythic skin in every battle pass. So I'm not even going to Also, let's think about that real quick. Like, I'm not even gonna get into the math of that, unless you've been preparing skins for years in advance before you even put this game in development. Uh, like how? Wait, that's like what? It's like 7 or 8 skins, or like 7, I guess. No, not even 6. That's like 6 battle passes a year, right?
Yeah.
And apparently each one has a skin that took a year to make. I don't know. That's what I'm hearing though. But it like you have game breaking bugs. Like PvE isn't out yet. You have better things to spend resources on than making a good skin for a year. No, I shouldn't even say good. That's downplaying. It's great. But like there's other really good Genji skins. Like I forgot the names of the ones that look kind of like samurai with like the furry ponytail coming out, and then like
What?
not furry as in like that. I meant like just
Oh
soft,
yeah, yeah, like the
or like
character. Okay.
not like that, or like Blackwatch Genji is a fan favorite.
Yeah.
The Genjimon, the one that looks like a Power Ranger, is a fan favorite. Like all these are skins that look really good too. You spent a year making that, man. Get out of here. But like, oh, also, you played Fortnite, right?
Yeah, I played it. Yeah.
Did you ever buy the Battle Pass?
Never. We lived that free
Uh,
life.
did you
I know
know
you
that?
could.
Yeah, go ahead,
Hmm?
go ahead.
I would say like obviously like you buy it and then if you like did it, you'd have enough to rebuy
Yeah,
it.
yeah. In Overwatch you can.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Fortnite
As
really actually
many
just wrote.
hours as you put
Yeah.
into the game, you cannot buy the Battle Pass for free if you buy it once. So you're buying the Battle Pass pretty much every time.
But
Legacy tokens are hilarious. So people who have tokens from the last game didn't transfer over. So they're called legacy tokens and they can buy pretty much nothing, so they just sit there. Comical. Um
good. Okay.
and this is illegal in a lot of countries, right? So they for the Halloween event put things on
Yeah.
sale that didn't exist before. They've never been at the original price and they never will be again, at least for another year. And they put them on quote unquote sale. You know that's like illegal in a lot of places, right?
It's illegal here or no?
Is it? To say
I
things are
don't
on
know.
sale when they're like
I know
not on
JCPenney
sale.
does that. Doesn't do they not?
I think yes they
But
do.
definitely in some places it's I know for sure.
Yeah, so that's illegal. And you know what's funny? Overwatch mods on the Reddit were like banning people for saying to report them for this. They're like, oh, no calls to action. I was like, bro, they're scamming you. They're actually scamming you. Like what what is wrong with you? But there's so much stuff going on in Blizzard. But I want your take on it. As someone from the outside looking at all these things, because you don't play Overwatch. What would
No.
you didn't ever play Overwatch, did you?
I did. I did.
Oh, you didn't. Okay, okay.
Overwatch main
Did you like
Overwatch, yeah.
Overwatch One?
It was good. I liked it. It wasn't
So
like
looking at this entire
yeah.
thing and how like actually polished Overwatch One was, you can say whatever you want about like not liking the metas and stuff, but the
No,
loot
for
box
sure, yeah, I
system was
understand.
great. Loot box system was excellent in my opinion. The skins were pretty good. It was pretty fun. The metas kind of sucked at times. Competitive scene was great. So what do you think about all of this?
No, it's definitely like it's such a downfall. I remember like 'cause I never like really got into Overwatch. I think I got to the point where I could get ranked and
Mm-hmm.
then it kind of just like stopped after that, right?
Yeah.
But to like see it like go down like that's actually crazy. I remember like you would just hear about Overwatch and you didn't have to play it. Like you knew like that was
Yeah.
happening. You'd see like the games and stuff or you always see like stuff online and like now like
Overwatch won Game of the Year at one point. Overwatch is
it was Game of
huge.
the Year edition. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yep. And now, like, it's not like they're really gonna kill the game like that. Because honestly, like, what do they even switch game engines? Like, what did they do from Overwatch 1 to 2?
Oh, nothing.
Like, because I knew
For
like they're
actual
kind of
competitive, removed a tank, reworked some characters. It's actually a really good meta, but like,
yeah.
yeah, that's it. Like, cause PvE isn't out yet. Cause you know what they did instead of PvE? Apparently made skins for a year.
Okay, I remember like when I saw the first news about it, I was like, okay, it's whatever. Overwatch 2, not that big of a deal, you know what I mean? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
free if you have Overwatch 1, right?
Overwatch 2 is
And
free no
then
matter what.
oh, it's free. Okay,
So
yeah. And so I was
PVE
like,
is not free at all,
oh, what?
no
Okay,
matter
never
who,
mind.
if
I
you bought Overwatch 1 or
retract
not.
my statement.
But the multiplayer for Overwatch 2 is free no matter what. The Fortnite strat. Like Warzone, like Call of Duty did with Warzone 2, and guess what? They're the same company, so shock.
Yeah, and obviously it paid off for them.
Yeah. But like whose fault do you think like something like this is? Like if you
It's
had to
like
like pinpoint a
CEOs.
time, I honestly think it's somewhat gamers' fault to blame.
Until okay, I could see that.
The reason why
With
is like if you look at things like this and Warzone and whatnot and all these
okay,
scummy
wait, quick second,
things,
quick
yeah.
question. Casual gamers or pro gamers?
Oh, casual, not pros.
Okay, okay.
Like bro, like yeah, no, not pros at all.
Okay.
Uh, because rarely do you see pros like flexing things like skins and stuff. Like they'll have it obviously because they make money off of the game. Like the only time you've seen it is in Counter Strike, but in Counter Strike you can also sell skins. It's not like they're
That's
stuck to your
true.
account. Counter Strike's completely different, and I love Counter Strike, and I will never diss Gaben's game. Uh,
Sure.
but yeah, so I think it's casual gamers' fault because if you like really look at like where the inflection point is, right? Like where this all started, all this BS of like
Hmm.
how this came about. Unfortunately, you kind of have to trace it back to Fortnite and their business model. Like look at the parallels, both free, both have really expensive skins. Though Fortnite obviously was like a lot better. Like like you don't have to say Fortnite's pro consumer, right? But they
Uh-huh.
definitely weren't this bad. Like this is one of the most egregious things I've ever seen with a game launch. But like, you got to imagine like all these CEOs are looking at like how much money Epic made with that funny little game and thought we need some of that. Like we need at least a bite of it. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, for sure.
Cuz
Like
like
I just
no, go ahead.
no, like I feel like a lot of times like it's always this always happens in this type of like environment where you're like you obviously like need to make a good game, but you also need to make it sell, right?
Mhm.
And you see like like just the actual like stronghold like Fortnite had on like consumer culture is like I don't think you're matching it for a while. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know if it ever will be matched. Bro, you had
yeah,
Drake playing that game.
that's true.
You had Drake playing that game. You got Ninja like the craziest mixer deal off of that game. You had Drake playing with Ninja, and Ninja claimed he used him for clout. Like, how delusional do you have to be? Like, imagine how inflated Ninja's life was at that point, to the point where he thought Drake was using him for clout. I don't even like
Yeah,
Drake that much anymore. Like, Drake has to be the most clouded man in history, right? Like,
Drake. Yeah.
I
Have you
don't
listened to
like
the
name a
album?
man more clouded.
Yeah,
Oh, I actually really enjoyed the album.
it was good.
Me and my
Dude,
friend listened
21's
to it out
so
loud.
funny
It
on
was a bit
that. Yeah.
samey throughout, and I don't think there was
Yeah.
enough 21. There could have been more features. Overall, though,
It
coming
was a good
off
album.
of Drake's last two albums, this was definitely
Certified Lover Boy.
a certified way up. Certified Lover Boy was so mid, and honestly, never mind was mid, but at least it was a little different, so we can blame it on something else. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you gotta like imagine your Blizzard CEO, dude, looking at this, touching girls around the office. What? He's still there.
The
Actually,
CEO.
he didn't get kicked out during the merger, which is hilarious, and the acquisition by
There's no way that Microsoft keeps
Microsoft.
him on.
Yeah, I
Phil
don't know if his
Spencer's
title's still
definitely having
CEO, but
words
he's
with him,
still a
bro.
dude there. Oh, bro, he's he's still he's still scheming. But yeah, like that, you know, a man like that definitely doesn't have the morals to say let's not do this. But this brings me to another question, right? Seeing this, what happened here, right? with Overwatch 2, I think it's time to make the argument that free games aren't good.
That's big. I feel like
How
definitely
do you feel
like
about that as a statement?
no, like I feel like that's true. Like this, the way like games are like just shifted to like a pay to play. Not even like pay to play, right? But like obviously like if I buy a game, like something like CS:GO or something, right? Or
Yep.
like anything else, like I've paid money. Like I know everything. Like I'll be able to do everything in the game. Like either like be able to do stuff like that.
Mhm.
Obviously, like stuff like customization, it's not like you're still paying for it, but like when we're transitioning to this like free to play model,
Mhm.
it's like the amount of stuff that like becomes locked. Because like, well, CS:GO might not be a good example, right? Since everything kind of like you buy the skins, but you can
Mhm.
also sell them for money. So like I kind of
Correct.
excuse them for
And
that.
it was
But
free to
say
play for a while, but isn't
it
anymore
was, and
technically.
then it wasn't even like, but then it that became a whole different thing of possibilities. You know what I mean?
It's
Like
mainly because of hackers that it
issues.
went back, but yeah.
That's true. But like if let's say we look at Rainbow, right? So Rainbow had
Is Rainbow free now?
I don't know. They have like I know they have like the discounted Rainbow, but
Mm,
like no, but like on a like pay to play, right? Like the initial like I pay and I'm playing, right?
correct.
Everything in that game, besides maybe like one, two things, I can unlock by just earning in-game currency.
Correct.
There's nothing stopping me, but like stuff like when we're transitioning like Rainbow or like Fortnite, you if you're not paying for that battle pass, you're not winning anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're not actually
There's
gonna
no
be able to.
progression. At least in
There's no
Fortnite, there's
progression.
level. Oh, funny enough, that's another thing. I don't mean to cut you off, but
No.
in Overwatch 2, there's also no such thing as level. Your level is the battle pass. There is zero progression other than competitive leveling up and spending money. There's no account level. They got rid of account levels from like Overwatch 1. There's people who like work their lives off to get like diamond borders and stuff, and it's gone.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah, but go back to where you're saying.
No, yeah, and so obviously like with Fortnite, there's some stuff like not really progression based, but like it just was such like a good game, and like everyone was playing it. Like it just didn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like you could have played for free, not really lost out on anything.
Yeah,
But then like since like it became such like a big thing now that like you're just seeing it like you're seeing a game like Overwatch, right? Obviously, it was designed with additional like you pay and you're gonna play, right?
mm-hmm.
But then now you're going to it's like you're playing, but you're gonna pay for stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but then it's hard to transition from that type of model without affecting somewhat of like the experience of the game.
correct. Because like you have to choose what you're gonna do. Are you gonna charge up front because you need to make your money back for making a good game? You know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
are you gonna make it free to play, use that to grasp as many eyes as possible, and hope you get some kids and some nerds in to pay you money every time, every 55 days. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Oh, also, even though there's no way to get a skin in the game, right? Like just existing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh so this is remember when Valorant was coming out and you had to watch like Twitch to get a key?
The key drop, yeah.
So they put a Winston skin, a legendary Winston skin, as a Twitch drop for watching Overwatch sectioned YouTubers, right?
Okay.
Uh, and this skin, uh, a lot of people still have it because it's from Overwatch 1 in the Halloween event, but like you can't get it anymore. So obviously, a lot of people watching it, right? So what are they doing there? They're using it to guess what their tactic is by doing that?
The inflate streams. You're talking
Yeah,
about,
to inflate the
yeah.
amount of people watching Overwatch streams. Like
No,
it's
definitely, yeah.
all like the entire business model is get as many people on the game as possible. Hopefully you retain some of them, and hopefully a subset of those guys are also willing to pay you outrageous amounts of money for I don't know, like a 3D PNG file essentially. Like Like, you've ruined the game. You're worrying about the wrong thing. So, it's like scary for like you really think about the way gaming's moving, right? Uh like this like COD's basically dead. Like, I don't care what people say about COD's numbers and whatever. COD is not what it was. And
No,
I
for
don't
sure.
think
It's
it'll ever
definitely.
go back. Like, COD is so far gone from the peak days of like BO2, MW2, all that. Overwatch died before our eyes. It died like so gradually, but Blizzard failed to do anything about it after the GOATS meta. And then they
Like
brought
goats
back
meta.
Overwatch. Yeah, that was the meta that really killed Overwatch. It was before roll lock queue. That was the thing that got people to get roll lock queue right.
Yeah.
It was 3 tanks, 3 healers, and it was basically just no one dies.
Okay.
And the only time people would die, your entire goal was right to charge up your ults, and then to win team fights, you would have to use an ult. There was no gunplay. There's no damage heroes in goats.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called goats because it was from like a contenders team. They got like way too far because they used that meta to just steamroll people in the Overwatch league. Uh, Obviously they lost when like actual professional teams started using that meta, but XQC was part of it actually.
I forgot XQC was an
He was
Overwatch and a
so good.
competitive Halo player. Yeah.
He was so good at Overwatch. Dude, that man on Winston was deadly.
No, for Halo 2, that man or he won so much stuff in Halo. And like if you watch him play, he was actually just crazy at
Hmm.
Halo competitive.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, how do you think this affects the future of gaming though? Like, seeing this business model, and it has to be successful, otherwise people wouldn't be doing it. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be
Because
too
mm,
successful when you're charging this type of markup, right?
be-
It's one of the things where markup is so high, you don't need too many people to hop on board, and you can just ride through all the controversy and make money.
that's for sure. But I feel like really where it comes from is that your marketing or like it's like the little kids, right? Because like obviously like I don't know like I didn't buy a lot of games when I was a kid. I used to just play actually the most random like free to play games. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't just constantly
Yeah.
like I didn't have money. I also did not want to keep like obviously my parents did not buy me every game I asked for. You know what I mean?
TF2.
And so TF2 was goaded. But that's the type of stuff like the way like TF2 was made. Like I know it used to be paid, but like I mean I think it was super cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be part of like that the orange box, and then but then like now like it's like you had a few good free games, right? Like you'd find some just really good actually just free games.
Yeah.
And I feel like now we're just gonna transition to like everything's free, and we're gonna go like battle pass, and then basically just have a like everything is like under a paywall,
Yeah.
which I feel like is not the
Basically
way we
trying
want
to
to
get
go.
rid of progression, but still monetize the game as much as possible. Like,
Yeah,
what they're doing essentially is right. And I'm not like I'm not a doctor. Obviously, I don't know what this actually like means, but like
yeah,
in my opinion, what they're doing is they're stripping away every amount of dopamine you could get from playing the game free. You know what I mean? Like, they're
yeah,
locking
for
it
sure.
all behind a paywall, but they're still allowing you to get into the game free. So you might fall in love with aspects of a game like Overwatch's competitive mode, but then you're sitting there like, dude, I want to get really invested in this game, but I can't. I can't without buying the battle pass or something. So like in my opinion, that's
Exactly.
what they're trying to do. Cuz like getting rid of leveling, like dude, you know how crazy far you have to go to get rid of any progression whatsoever other than a battle pass? Like, you know how bad you want to take people's money?
Yeah,
But like,
it's
yeah, it's crazy,
we'll
man.
see. Really hope Microsoft says something about it.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter to us because like I don't know, we play CS:GO and we'll play like random funny games. But like, it really feels like the gaming industry is just gonna have a bad rap because obviously like our sector is gonna be fine. Or like CS:GO will probably be fine,
Yeah, I
unless
don't
something
think so.
crazy
Yeah.
happens because they make all their money from skin transactions and Steam transactions. And like these little funny games will always be fine because they're just like actual enthusiastic people who make them, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
feels like the actual AAA games are dying. If it's not a story mode game and it's a AAA multiplayer game, it's probably gonna suck. Like, can you like? I know probably haven't played any, but can you name any like that are good right now?
Like AAA games.
Like a trip like big multiplayer AAA games, yeah, like
I
COD,
I honestly
stuff like
I
that.
haven't no. I honestly, you know what? With COD, I'm not even seeing like any like multiplayer gameplay. All I'm seeing is story. Like on TikTok, that's all you're seeing is
Story,
how
yeah,
good the story was.
it's just story in Warzone,
Yeah. I don't
and
even
like
think that's like, yeah.
I'm surprised COD still makes the campaign because it's good, but I guess they do charge up enough upfront to make it worth. But what COD was it where they took a break from campaign? Do you remember
Oh
that?
wow.
They just want to go strictly on the money and took a break from campaign for a year. What was that? Is that
Infinite?
Black
No, that
Ops
can't be.
4?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do a campaign for that game. That was crazy. Like, cause I don't think people realize who like play COD nowadays, cause it definitely isn't the old COD fans who play it. How old
This
Call of Duty is, and all of them had really good campaigns. Uh, but multiplayer got really popular around the MW2 era, and COD 4 too, also. Uh, so that's kind of where that went. But that's basically all I got to say about the Blizzard stuff. We'll see how this pans out. Uh, by pan out, I mean watch the game die extremely quickly. Uh, but yeah, moving on. Uh, I guess to more interesting stuff, or at least more happy stuff. Actually, no, this is definitely the happiest topic of the day, right? It has to be.
yes, definitely. It's yep.
Uh, AMD yesterday, which we tweeted out, I think. I think I remember to do that. Had their keynote, which was like advance. This is how we advance under or together we advance underscore gaming. It was a weird title, but they've been doing that recently. They announced RDNA 3 along with their new uh what is it, Radeon 7000 GPUs, and one of them, in my opinion, could be a game changer. And I think maybe we don't see AMD dominate this generation. I don't. We obviously we won't.
Yeah.
But I think this is like I'm gonna break this down. I think this is like a huge leap forward for them, and this is something where I think next generation Blackwell v RDNA 4 could actually be an AMD win. So I'll let you take it away
Okay.
with the models and explain them.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna go. Let's a little brief overview of everything, and then we'll obviously go into detail. So first of all, we had two GPUs released yesterday.
Announced.
7900 or announced. My bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
7900 XTX, 24 gigabytes, GDDR6. That's MSRP of $1,000, and that's running at 355 watts. And you have a 20 gigabyte 7900 XT at 900, and then that's at 300 watts, and they're on TSMC 5 and 6. And then there's some more detailed specs we'll talk about in a bit, but obviously first impressions. I'll go first and you can follow up with Ithia.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like really the real winner here is obviously the XTX. I feel like the XT is just kind of like
Mm-hmm.
one of those like marketing schemes right now. It's like the difference between like a medium and large bucket of
I
popcorn.
actually meant to write that in the doc, but I forgot to. It's
I
a
don't even
thing
know
where
the
you like price the medium, like a drink, like a medium drink, way too close to high, so you just buy the high drink. Like to me, the
exactly, yeah.
XT looks like a stupid purchase right now.
No,
Oh,
it
also, it's
definitely, yeah.
really weird. Why did they switch the naming scheme to XXT again? Like, why didn't they just keep it how it was before with just bigger numbers? Why have they done that?
XTX, I honestly don't know because the problem with like the XTX branding, right, is that when we're talking about the what was the high end Navi chip? Was it 21?
Yeah.
They had they used to call the actual
Wait,
the
I know there's a 21 and a 31. Does AMD go? lower number better, like
Low number
NVIDIA.
better, yeah.
So does 21.
There's 21. And I remember like every time they had like a better yield on their on the GPU, right? Like on the Navi 21,
Mm-hmm.
they went X, I think, and they went XTX, and they finally went XTXH, which is basically like the golden sample that they gave
Mm-hmm.
to liquid to like AIBs that were doing liquid cooling. And
Okay.
so don't know why they decided to put that because that was like even not really that was like an internal thing, not
Yeah.
really internal. Like you could
It
obviously
wasn't
find
forward
it very
facing.
easy. Yeah, but it wasn't on the like if I bought a GPU and say an XTX chip, right?
Correct.
But like obviously the AIBs knew about it. If you obviously Googled it, like AMD did announce like that like it's an XTX chip or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then to put that in the name now, I feel like it kind of like hinders you unless they're trying to like
It might be just so they look the same and people buy the wrong one. I don't know.
I think so. Or it might
But
just be
like,
I
why would you
guess
just like?
yeah.
Because in my opinion, it should be like the 7800 XT and the 7900 XT instead of both XTX. Uh, but to your point, since they use internal nomenclatures like that, right? Uh, they are both on the same die. It's just that the XT is about like 86% full compared to the XTX. So it could be them just bringing internal naming forward to look different. I don't know.
Yeah, I that's interesting. Yeah, well, I want to see. Do you think we're gonna get? I guess we're gonna get a 7950, or do you think we're gonna get a 7900? Those both have to be
Mm,
like in the
7900 is
naming
a
scheme.
possibility. Uh, I don't know. See, here's the thing though. Imagine where a 7900 would land in performance stack wise.
Yeah,
For consumer headspace, you can't have a 900 series card going up against like a 4070. Like, could you? I feel like that would be bad in consumer headspace.
it definitely would be bank
It'd also
consumer
be too many
headspace.
cards with a 900 in the name. I can't
No,
see
for sure.
a 7950 XTX for now. Maybe
Uh,
2 years down the line. It depends, because if they have like a really short GPU cycle, like they did this time for when they come out
mhm.
with like RDNA 4 or whatever they come out in between, then no. But if it becomes like a longer typical GPU refresh cycle, probably. Or it
Yeah,
could
we'll see.
be GDR6X.
Oh, that's true. But then I feel like, do you think they put GDR6X on the 7900 and just keep the upper two models like that?
I don't know, man. This naming scheme's so confusing.
XTI, it's just such like kind of put themselves in a corner, honestly, with the naming scheme. At least we didn't skip another generation. I feel like,
Yeah. And
As-
what they're doing with CPUs is crazy.
especially with the laptops.
Yep. But yeah,
So
so we have a like you said, 24 gigabytes on the XTX, which is our top end model, and 20 gigabytes on the XT. Going into the more detailed, interesting stuff, they're on GDR6, a GDDR6. Uh, for the memory, instead of 6x, which is what NVIDIA used last generation and is using this generation. Interesting, but I have predictions of why they did that. TSMC. So when I put 5 and 6 nanometer here, right? The reason that's interesting is one, drum roll. This is the first graphics card with a chiplet design. They've
big.
done it. This is huge. This is actually a turning point. Just like how it was a turning point on CPUs, it's gonna be one on here. So 5. So they're using TSMC's 5 nanometer for the main graphics cores and 6 for everything else. Uh, it's a chiplet design, obviously. Another big thing is we're talking about mobile GPU performance earlier. They decoupled the shader clock from the front end main clock. This is something you see in mobile products. So the shader clock is at 2.3 gigahertz, and the front end clock is at 2.5 gigahertz. They're claiming about 25% efficiency uplift and a 15% speed boost uplift. Those numbers are probably not right. But it definitely is going to make a difference. And I'll let you explain why in a bit. 2 EPS 8 pins on the reference designs, instead of the PCIe 5.0 connector that has been such a funny thing to see on Reddit for the past month on the NVIDIA cards, and DisplayPort 2.1, which I have a lot of thoughts about that I'll get into later. But have you looked a lot into the shader versus front end clock thing?
I have not. I don't think they didn't have that much information
Yeah. So
on their slides
basically,
about
the
it.
reason is like, speed wise, I don't think it's actually gonna be that big of a deal. Efficiency, it is.
Yeah.
Because by decoupling it, it means that, like, imagine you're playing like an easy game like CS:GO, right?
Yeah.
You don't need your shaders to be going crazy. There's nothing to render. All you need is your front end clock to be fast, to be pushing out the frames. So that's where the efficiency uplift comes from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're pushing out frames, but you're not running your GPU basically at full power. You're splitting up tasks. And that's just, like, it's such a big thing, because you imagine like playing games, right? It's not obviously as awful as a synthetic benchmark, but like, you're using more resources than you have to on easy games. This is not going to make a
Yeah.
difference on hard games, because on hard games you're going to need the shader clock to be high. But on easy games where it's not graphically intense, splitting those up is huge, and it's actually something we see in mobile products, because in mobile products every bit of efficiency matters. So, what are your thoughts on splitting those two ups
No,
after
it's
hearing what
definitely
it's kind of about?
I feel like the move here, right? Obviously, like it's I want to see. Obviously, I don't know how much performance we're gonna get on the top end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, like once we decouple shader front end, right? Obviously, I feel like this is why you also have that plus 200 um megahertz increase, right, between shader and front end, because
Yeah.
that's probably how much they could push it more.
Yeah. It's
But
definitely a lot
then
easier to do front end clock than
that's for sure,
shaders, which
and
makes
that's also I'm
sense.
guessing that's where the speed boost probably comes from, like, as you said, like you can keep your shader lower, your shader frequency lower, but then your front end goes higher.
Yep.
That's probably also once again where your speed coming from. I don't see really how else that would change, you know what I mean? The
Mm-hmm.
decoupling of it. It's like kind of like a thermal headroom type thing, like how you change your PBO on the
Oh
CPU.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
Do you
really
think
interested
there's going to
about.
be some
Mhm.
growing pains with this? Like,
There's definitely always growing pains.
yeah, do you think there's going to be issues where, like, for some reason, the front end clock will just go like stupidly high away from the shader clock, and you run into issues where the frames aren't rendering right? Or do you think this is something that will go pretty smoothly out the gate?
I feel like definitely like it's gonna be like maybe 80% finished. Like in
Mm-hmm.
a way that like they obviously like I feel like they've tested, like AMD really has increased their testing and their benchmarks like for like their bench tests for their GPUs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously like putting it like into consumers' hands is really like the biggest test you can have. But
Yep.
so I definitely feel like we'll have to like I guarantee you it's going to like go pretty well for most people. There's gonna be like specific instances where like you'll see some crashing or like some hanging. It's like same
Mm-hmm.
thing with Zen. Like Infinity Fabric was like
Yeah.
a new thing, and also the
There were
CCDs and
so
stuff
many
like,
issues when it was new.
and like even with Windows, like Windows literally the task schedule on Windows like did not know how to handle like obviously like on an Intel CPU since the monolithic design
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter like what I put stuff on since they all like are gonna have
All
some
the cores communicate to each other at the same speed. There's no
same
latency
speed,
in
yeah.
between them.
But with AMD, that's obviously different, and then they have to
Mm-hmm.
fix for that. Obviously, like a game needs to run on the same CCD if it can, compared
Correct.
to like
Yeah.
obviously
And when
not
he
for
says
Intel.
CCD, he means like on chiplet design products, different cores are grouped up into sections. And so the issue with the task scheduling was, like, if you take a core from one section and another, then obviously they have to go through a much longer communication process, which can heavily affect performance.
That's true. Then we obviously saw on AMD's side, I'm pretty sure, I think they also did some decoupling on their early models or CPU models. I feel like there was definitely some talk about decoupling certain like frequencies, right? Certain clocks from each other.
Oh,
I'm
people
trying to
tested
remember
out
what it
decoupling
was.
like Infinity Fabric speed from like half of memory speed, because remember that was like normally the
But that was a
scale.
big one. But I feel like there definitely was like one internally. I'm trying to
Maybe.
remember what it was. I'll
Mm.
think about it in a second. But yeah, we'll see how that. I just don't. I'm trying to really think. Oh, I want to see how that also works on laptops, obviously. That's also like a game changer on the laptop scene,
Oh,
right?
because yeah, efficiency on laptops is so important. That's why I hate Intel laptops right now. Uh, Even though
They're
the
quite
speed has
toasty.
finally caught up again, they just pull so much more wattage. The battery life is literally so much worse. But
No.
yeah, and like so, what was it? Oh yeah. So also the big thing I was going to talk about, DisplayPort 2.1. I'll let you start off on this because I think I have more thoughts about it.
Okay, yeah. So I just know for a fact, so DisplayPort 2.1, they kind of like were touting it a lot because they were saying you could play 900 FPS at 1080, I think, or that sounds right. Yeah, that was kind of their
No,
big selling
that's
point.
that's is that it? That seems too
That
low.
was one of them. It was
Maybe
like
it's like
900
a
or at
cap of how
4K. I
much.
think it was 900 at 4K, I
It's
think.
480 at 4K.
Or so it's 900, I feel like.
No,
But
because
it's kind of like,
that would be
are you sure?
900 at 2K.
It was 900 at something. I just know that for a fact. But
Maybe it just can't like go like to like a
I
thousand or
think it's a
whatever.
thing. Yeah, like it's kind
Yeah.
of like there's like just a limitation. I know they were playing Valorant at like 700 frames per second
Yeah.
during the thing, which is insane.
Mhm.
But I know so DisplayPort 2.1, it's interesting because it kind of fall in this like um USB problem they had where DisplayPort 2.1, I'm pretty sure is kind of like a revision to the standard to include USB, to like USB certificate like standards in it. And so
Really?
technically, it DisplayPort 2.1 is not that big of a difference, I believe, over DisplayPort 2
Mhm.
because like you can have the DisplayPort 2 cable that technically works with DisplayPort 2.1.
Okay.
It's just the way like it's just some like I'm pretty sure I'm trying to recall, but it's USB-C. It is, yeah, DisplayPort over USB Type C. Yeah. The point is like if I had DisplayPort cable that was USB-C type, right?
Mhm.
Um, it it worked with 2.1, right?
Mhm.
And then you also have some like other like yeah, bandwidth management and then play streams compression. Yeah, DSC. Also,
Mhm.
that's how they're pumping such high frame rates, like
Yeah.
really high qualities is DSC. Obviously, like the DisplayPort, there are like DisplayPort 2.0 cables that support all the 2.1 features, right? But
Mhm.
like we're not seeing like a jump in like crazy bandwidth. I feel like you know what I mean. Like it's not like USB 2 to USB 3 type move.
For sure.
But obviously, like let you go into
Yeah.
your
Well,
discussion about
it
it.
is kind of that big of a move because the thing is we're not
Yeah.
coming from 2.0, we're coming from 1.4 on most cases.
Oh, that's true.
Uh but yeah, there's so if you didn't know 2.1, uh one, it gives you access to 8K at 165, 4K at 480, and then whatever the other ones are extremely fast out of reach. Um Really, I'm very happy that it exists. I'm extremely like just pissed the fact that Nvidia did not include it. Why did they go for 1.48? Like, why did they cheap out on a $1,600 graphics card? How much more could have taken off their bottom line? That was really
Yeah.
stupid. Because I don't want to use HDMI, quite honestly. There's a lot of quirks that come with it, especially running
That's
like
true.
G Sync and stuff over it. It just doesn't work as well. Um, and also they only have one HDMI 2.1 port on them, so that's stupid. But yeah, DisplayPort 2.1. Uh, the only thing I'll say is it's a very good upgrade. It's great that AMD included it, but AMD's marketing of it is so scummy. Like the AK ultra wides, Samsung's monitor. Like don't be showing off that Odyssey G9, because we all know the problems that the Odyssey G9 had last year. The thing was awful. Like we're at the point where like resolution doesn't matter at that like size. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Resolution
No,
does
for
not
sure.
matter at all. It all that matters is like color quality and stuff like that. So like that's why you see stuff like the Alienware 3424 WD or DW whatever, the QD OLED ultra wide. It is so much better than every other monitor for most games other than the hardest core FPS games. And it's 1440p. It's fine. Just include better like promote better monitors is basically my point. Don't go out there for marketing hype and say big number K or 8K or 12K, just a bigger number every year. Just promote better quality monitors. So that's all I have to say about it. I'm glad they included it. It's crazy that Nvidia didn't, but we'll see how the monitors pan out. But overall, I think it's great that the future proofed it. All right, and moving on, do you want to go over like some of the software features and whatnot they showed?
Okay, so I feel like so there's two really big ones we're talking about. You have SmartNexus Video and FSR3. So SmartNexus Video, you were using both the CPU and the GPU, and they said 30% uplift in 4K encoding.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is kind of big. I feel like this is kind of like AMD has been trying for like a while to kind of get this like you win by doing CPU plus GPU on their side, right?
Yeah.
I feel like this is kind of a selling point they
Vertical
haven't been able to like
integration.
really offer the vertical integration. 'Cause I know they a while ago on laptops, right? They did the thing. I forget what it's called. Like it could switch between the iGPU and the discrete GPU
Yeah.
depending on
Most
like
laptops
games
will
or
call it
just like
eco mode.
the eco mode, yeah. Or like I think just in general, like if you're browsing, it wouldn't actually use the discrete GPU, right?
Yep.
And then so obviously I feel like it was kind of like a plus, not really that much of a plus, I guess, but just kind of
Mm-hmm.
interesting. But I feel like this encoding thing, obviously they still need to make some more like advancements in their GPUs to get anywhere near like NVENC encoding and stuff, right? But like I'm interested to see how the benchmarks perform in encoding with like a 7900 XTX and like just a Ryzen CPU. Your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts?
Like the thoughts on the encoding?
No, just like I guess, or how do you think? Do you think it's actually gonna be a game changer, or like do you think it's kind of just like kind of
Uh,
like a cool feature that's just there?
this is gonna sound really hater. I don't think it's gonna be a game changer at all this generation. But
Okay.
I think it's a groundwork you have to set and work on, because if there's one thing we know, it's that you're most likely gonna lose to Nvidia in software every year.
Yeah.
But your goal should be get as close as possible, or at least have the framework to know what you're doing. Because the reason you're losing to Nvidia in software every year is because you're playing catch up, right? So setting
That's
something
true.
like this up is huge. Uh, and the reason I say it doesn't matter, right, is because yeah, you get that 30% uplift in encoding, but the truth is, Nvidia's encoding is just so much faster that it doesn't matter. Like, like the 30% is wiped away just by getting an Nvidia card. So I get it. I get what they're trying to do here,
Mm-hmm.
and this will matter so much in the future. The closer and closer Nvidia gets, I mean AMD gets to Nvidia's encoding, right, with their media
Mm-hmm.
engine, and also the bigger the uplift is. Because think about it, 30% isn't that much when the fact that this was definitely paired up with a 7950X. There's no way they're not
That's
putting the
true.
best encoding processor in that socket when they test this. So 30% really isn't that much. So the bigger uplift you can get, the more of the CPU you can use at the same time. This is huge. So this isn't something that I think will matter this generation, but it will definitely matter in the future.
No, for sure. Yeah. Do you think? I feel like. Do you think this is gonna translate to any other performances and like other applications, or do you think it's kind of we're just stuck with
Hmm,
like an encoding boost?
just encoding.
'Cause I feel like
AMD AMD has
it's already a
shown,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, AMD has shown that when it comes for overall productivity, uh, they're not going to be able to do much, and that's not
Yeah.
entirely their fault. But it somewhat is. Um, but yeah, I don't think so. Mainly for encoding and maybe rendering in the future, but when it comes to like Blender and other workloads like that, no.
Yeah. I honestly want to see more features about it later. But
Mm-hmm.
then, so next topic, we got FSR 3. Double the performance over FSR 2. But now I think we're adding hardware features. Because
Yep.
they specifically specified for Radeon users. And I think this is, I don't know if we talked about it in an earlier podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but this is definitely, I know they were having some patents out for like wave multiplication, something along those lines, which is effectively how NVIDIA does DSLR. So this, I feel like this is definitely their hardware.
DLSS 3.
Or that was
You just
yeah,
named a camera.
yeah. DLSS 3. I feel like it's definitely like we'll see how this hardware goes. Um, ooh, I had to follow up. I forgot what it was. It's embarrassing. Oh yes. Do you think we're going to see like is FS3 like are we going to see an FS3 and an FS2? Or do you think FS3 is basically going to be like a toggle on off on like if I was using an RDNA 2 GPU, I could use
Mm-hmm.
FSR3, or do you think we're gonna have to like there'll be improvements that they kind of just push on both FSR2 and 3?
So I can't completely answer that, mainly because of my incompetence. And what I mean by that is, I I haven't looked into when they say FSR3, is it an entire new product with the addition, so what they're calling it, I think it was like fluid motion smoothing or fluid motion rendering.
Yeah.
They had like a name for what they're doing to like basically imitate NVIDIA's DLSS 3, which is a completely separate technology from DLSS 2. Those AI generated frames, right? If FSR 3 is that, if it's just the integration of that plus other backend features, no, it's not going to be backwards compatible. But
Okay.
if it's not, if it's an upgrade on FSR 2 and has the option to turn that on as another toggle, then maybe. Because the thing is, they also have stated that FSR 3 right now is only for the 7000 series and it may be backwards compatible, which means
Okay.
they're not sure yet, either because they want to gatekeep for sales purposes or mainly, or more likely, I'd say, uh, because the hardware is just not suitable.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I need to know more about it. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we saw a lot in the presentation. They kind of just had the Unreal Engine 5 benchmark,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
then
dude,
they also
AMD showed nothing performance wise. Absolutely
that's true.
nothing.
Yeah.
But
And
and another thing is actually, if it is just that fluid motion rendering, turn it off. Like it's not that good. And it's not even AMD's fault. Like Nvidia hasn't figured it out yet. And if it's an AI thing and Nvidia hasn't figured it out yet,
yeah, AMD's not
AMD
gonna
probably
not
doesn't
gonna
have
be
the
good.
chance. And it like think about, so it's really good in certain scenes, and there's a reason why Nvidia showed it in certain scenes in their presentation when DLSS 3 was announced alongside RTX 4000. Uh, if you think about this from like a computer scientist problem or a machine learning problem, right? You are essentially, what these AR frames are doing is you are taking a frame. Say you have frame one and frame two, right? Frame one obviously
Yeah.
comes before. You are taking that frame and analyzing the motion vectors. So the vectors is obviously like where it points, but I'm trying to explain this in like layman's terms. So where the motion is pointing, right, in that entire frame. So you're analyzing that and then applying that with deep learning to figure out what the next frame will look like, or an in between of the next frame, if that makes sense. So that's how
Yeah.
they're doing it. But if you think about it, they're only doing it at that exact instance of motion vectors, or maybe like a couple instances of frames before. So if you're doing a lot of movement, it's not gonna work. You're gonna get artifacting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And they've actually reproduced this pretty well when the screen's pretty easy to replicate, just things moving in basically one direction or you're driving in a straight line. DLSS 3 works great. But the second you're doing a lot of things, it doesn't look too great anymore. So obviously this tech is just only going to get better. Like if you told me some of the AI features we had today were going to be available 3 years ago, I would have called you an idiot. So it will probably work at one point, but right now it's not going to, and I don't think AMD's will be even better. In fact, it'll probably be worse. So,
Yeah. Well,
but again,
another thing.
setting that groundwork is important because you don't want to be too far behind.
That's true. Yeah. So on top of FSR that got announced, we also had HyperRX,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very complicated name to say. Like it honestly reminds me of HyperX. I feel like it's
Yeah.
gonna get called that a lot. Apparently, I thought it was just an overclocking tool, but
Mm-hmm.
apparently it's supposed to be a competitor to NVIDIA Reflex.
I saw that. So
Which,
when I was reading the article you linked,
yeah.
or maybe the one I linked, I was like, this sounds like an overclocking tool, but they're talking about latency
Hmm.
optimization, which is reflex. So I guess it's a little bit of both, but I know nothing about it, so you can explain it.
Yeah, so honestly, they were super vague with it. They kind of included it as part of the FSR package, where we go with FSR plus HyperX, or yeah, there we go,
Yeah.
HyperRX, right?
Well,
Um,
how do you say it? HyperX?
HyperRX, hyper.
Hyper RX instead of just Hyper
Yeah,
X. Hyper
yeah, because
RX, so Hyper
it's
RX.
RX. Yeah, I'm guessing RX because
It's one of the
this
worst names I've ever seen, but
the
okay.
GPUs. Yeah, and then they honestly that's the problem. They announced a lot of stuff, but also just proceeded not to announce a lot of details because
Yeah.
like no one knows like any like FS like as we were just saying FSR is like backwards compatible if it's like a completely different like a hardware thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so 85% better performance with one-third latency.
Mm.
So I don't know how much is this. I really don't know how they managed to do that. Usually, I don't
I
know
mean,
that
I
much
have
about
no
NVIDIA
yeah, I have no clue
Reflex,
how
right?
Nvidia did it, to be honest. They haven't
And
really explained too much.
I know anti-lag, right? I don't know what NVIDIA called it, but like AMD's anti-lag they did.
Mm-hmm.
I know with that they kind of like you would get less latency, right? Because it would sync up the like the I forgot what it's called. Like when you're talking about the refresh rate, like the lag between when you when the
Frame
GPU sends
timing.
something, the frame timing. I think they somehow like you get your frame timing like better, but then you lose maybe like 1-2%. But it was worth it because like
Yeah.
the game would feel like more responsive.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously like NVIDIA Reflex, I don't know how they do that, but I don't know honestly if I mean if you're decreasing latency, I don't know spec. Do you know any spec wise like what Reflex can do or no?
Dude, it's crazy what reflex does. Like, in fact, a very funny thing, the difference between not having reflex on, like how much it drops, is about the difference in latency you gain turning DLSS 3.0 on. Uh,
Okay.
so reflex, um, like in a lot of games, you'll see like like you'll cut over half your latency. It's honestly crazy, and the fact that it's like reproducible is like insane. Now, obviously, it isn't half the latency to you because you have to factor in a monitor, visual, and mouse, right?
Yeah,
But you'll cut over half of like the computational latency. So yeah,
that's
you'll
true.
get a lot of the computational latency down to like about 8 milliseconds instead of like 20.
Yeah, so I'm looking obviously like with that type of stuff with HyperRX and NVIDIA Reflex, those are APIs. So we're not seeing this like it's not like a um an optimization at the driver level.
Mm-hmm.
So then the issue with that is that obviously how many games are going to support it. I know like when DLSS first came out, not a lot of games supported it, you know what I mean?
Correct.
And they kind of like took a while.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with this HyperRX is that if it actually gets implemented, I mean, if they do the same thing they do with the FSR and they get it implemented on Unreal Engine 5, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's huge, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think you might see that
Have
going with stuff
they?
like
Did they like announce any games that are gonna come out with it?
no, they legitimately they had the one game I think that they used for like they used for Dying Light 2. Yeah, they use that as like the performance like oh
Mm.
here's HyperRX, right?
Okay.
But besides that, I don't think they ever said like any games are coming out with it. Because we also have to wait till next year. It comes out first half of next year.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously
It's not at launch.
it's not at launch yet. And then I just really want I just want more details. I just actually have no details over
And
it.
the funny thing is, we're not getting it for over a month.
That's
Embargo's
true,
December
yeah.
13th.
Yeah, and they're super vague too on like the announcements. One half. It's the first half. It legitimately
Mm.
could come anywhere between May or oh my bad, January to like June, right?
Yep.
So yeah, this is definitely a waiting moment to see what they do. I feel like obviously like December 13th. Well, that's embargo. I feel like we'll get more details, just like maybe in a blog post or something from AMD, right? There's just no way
Hopefully,
they keep
they might have
all this
like some
hidden.
stuff ready embargo. You never know.
That's true. Um, yeah, honestly, I definitely need to look into more how NVIDIA Reflex works. But then, do you know if Reflex, do you get performance boost on Reflex or no? Like, I
No,
know you get
just
the late.
latency.
Okay, but this is interesting then, right? Because
Because
HyperRX
they're
says
not
you get
packaging it together like they do with HyperX. Hyper
okay,
RX. God damn
hyper.
it. Hyper RX.
So,
So is
wow,
it like
are
performance
they
and
packaging it
latency
together?
in one?
I
It
I
sounds like
think
it.
so. But that's crazy that they can go 85% better and one third latency because that's roughly what um
It should
that's
translate to like a substantial like feeling improvement if they're somewhat correct.
that's true. I'm trying to think. Okay, so we have a 3080. I'm looking at the like kind of Nvidia's like uh things they had for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you went from a this is kind of odd, their charge because they're also putting like if you have different monitors and stuff. So
No,
if
I
you have a
got you.
1660 at 60 hertz and you turn reflex on, you go
Mm-hmm.
from 49 milliseconds to 38 milliseconds.
Okay.
And then that's an Apex. Destiny 2 is from 77 to 51.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 33% improvement. So I don't that's not a third decrease, is it? One third of the latency? That would be like a 66% improvement, right? If I'm
If
doing the
they're
math
saying
right.
that, then yeah. But again,
Plus the performance, yeah.
the numbers you just listed were end to end using NVIDIA's LDAT. So that's total system latency, which is that thing I described earlier.
Yeah.
Uh, so realistically, AMD might just be in the same ballpark because total system latency counts like a click, and then it uses the LDAT, so it clicks on your mouse right, and
Mm-hmm.
it like because this is like a tool they sent to reviewers, and it goes through your entire system, and then it registers a pixel change on the screen. So that's entire system latency. So AMD might be dropping computational latency by 66%, but there's
Oh, but
so
not
many
like the
other
actual system. Yeah.
latencies in your computer, so it might end up a third like Nvidia's. But even if
But
they
then
get to a third, that's like crazy. The fact that they caught up to Nvidia in one try.
plus the performance, I think is the key point
Correct.
here. Which I don't really know how that they're getting performance on that. Unless they're letting like that's has to be a lot of work on developers' end. Like
to
have
implement it.
that happen. Yeah, implement that. If you're getting performance plus latency,
Maybe. You never know what these guys are figuring out over there. Could be pretty
no,
easy
that's
to
true.
implement for all we know. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is whether they want to, and then you also have to do NVIDIA reflex, and unless they're
Yeah, whether
hypothetically,
they want to is another thing.
and if Arc comes out with something, then that's another, like,
If Arc lives.
if Arc lives. If Arc does anything, that's three GPUs you have to support, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's definitely gonna be like another thing where like becomes like a driver, like a DirectX feature or something, right? And then it gets
Well, the thing is,
put
they
in.
they
Yeah.
approach the issue is like I'd agree with that,
Yeah.
but these are all hardware assisted, so it won't become like that for a while. Like it's gonna be hard to convince these companies to give up on these softwares when they're using their hardware in conjunction with software.
That's
So this could
true.
be one of those things where it's just, hey, who's got a better partnership with what company?
That's true. But I feel like at that point then, but like I feel like with DirectX or like Vulkan, we'll just get generic endpoints. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you
like
know
how
you
they
can
did with
optimize it somehow.
DXR, DirectX ray
Yeah.
tracing. Yeah. But then it will
Because
also
like
be up to GPUs and drivers to use their hardware properly with that.
that's true. But then like it just depends who you shift it to. You know what I mean? Like because that's what
Yeah.
happened. Like before we had like DirectX and stuff, right? Um, there was like the two GPU manufacturers. It was Voodoo, I think, or but it was like the I don't even think it was NVIDIA and AMD back then, right? Like
No,
in
it
the
wasn't.
90s.
It was
It
like
was there was
probably like Voodoo and ATI.
an ATI, yeah, but there was two of them, and there was a third one. A third one came in, and they're like, oh, we need to have a driver API, like we need to have a DirectX, like we cannot be like coding for three different GPU architectures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like if Arc continues like this, and they keep on like having all these like exclusive, not like, but you know what I mean? These like these features are not very like generic. You know what I mean? They're very
Yep.
specific to like company and stuff, like to board.
Mhm.
Then we're gonna see like another shift in like how we handle drivers and like GPUs.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I
I was
mean,
like, yeah, yeah,
bouncing off that, that's like why that I'm still probably gonna buy NVIDIA GPUs is the fact that their feature set is so much stronger. Uh, especially like for now that we do this, like it's like non-trivial rendering even just a thumbnail and some audio time wise. Uh, because I keep my school and personal accounts separate, and this on my personal. Like I can't. I need this render to finish to go use the other account. You can say, oh, I can leave this logged in, but because of my school's VPN, I actually can't.
so
so, so like when like rendering is something that's super important, and that's something AMD is so far behind in. It's not even funny. And the truth is, like, when you look at this in totality, right? AMD didn't talk about productivity at all in their presentation, and it's interesting
that's
because
true.
now that we look at it, like AMD's truly gonna be just a gaming card, and I think that's completely fine. And I think that's a really good thing for them to go after is really just go for price to performance in gaming, get that market share, and give themselves the cash flow to maybe make some other moves in other areas. What do you think?
No, they definitely like just the way like I mean you can even like if you're looking at the sheets and stuff, right? Like the revenue sheets, like AMD just definitely just makes less money. You know what I mean? Like they've made
Oh
less money on
yeah.
the CPU and GPU side compared to Intel and NVIDIA like forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they definitely like I feel like they're focusing on gaming because that's also where a lot of the money is gaming. You know what I mean? Like
Well, their money is because they can't get
what their
into
money
data
is, yeah.
centers or professional yet.
No, that's true, of course. But
Because
like
that's the even as slow as gaming customers are to switch, they're still the customers that will switch the fastest. You know
that's
what I
true,
mean?
yeah.
Because they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones where whatever card they're using, money is not on the line. Because like if you go into a data center, they're not going to trust AMD because money's on the
Yeah,
line. If you go into a professional or semi-professional setting where they're using it for rendering or CAD or something like that, right? AMD might be a little bit faster, but then you have to worry about the stability concerns that AMD's had in
that's
the
true.
past. So they're still not going to trust AMD. So it's one of those things where gaming is definitely the customers they need to hit, and it's the people who they have the most brand recognition with right now.
No, that's definitely a concern. Obviously, like, yeah, for like when you're talking about like non-general consumers, right? But then,
Mm-hmm.
'cause obviously, that's why you had like such a segmented That's why like well like so we're talking about GNC, right? So we're talking about like the RX 480 and stuff.
Yeah.
That's where you got like it was really good for mining and stuff because it just had like a bunch of random stuff that was like products of like trying to make one for a server, trying to make GPUs for servers and stuff. The
Mm-hmm.
same thing with Vega. Like Vega was like a it was a it was what's it called CDNA? No, that's the
CDNA.
it was CDNA,
CDNA is
right?
what
Yeah.
it is now, but Vega was just Vega. Was it? I don't know.
It was the Radeon, it was the Insync GPUs, right? And then what they
Yeah,
did is like
yeah.
they were
They
just like,
they
oh, we can make
shared.
these into just GP into like gaming GPUs, right?
Correct.
And then they just like weren't. I mean, they were okay. They were, they're nothing special, but like they also just like super hot and just
Extremely hot.
yeah, and just really was not like a wow. But mining once again, you know what I mean? Because just
HBM2
HBM2,
memory.
yeah,
They
and so
they did
mining
it
was
with
crazy again.
remember that weird time where AMD did nothing in the GPU space for consumers after Vega? And
Oh
then they
yeah,
released the Radeon 7, which was literally a Radeon Instinct GPU, like a professional GPU, just rebranded. That's like
exactly, yeah.
literally what it was. So that was
And
like a
like it
crazy card for
was
mining.
it was decently, but it was like somewhat good for gaming, wasn't it? But it was just like
Not
such like a
really. It was a terrible price to performance for gaming. It
no,
was
but
also
like
super
performance
limited.
wise, it was
I
like
mean, it
it
was
wasn't
fast.
bad, yeah, but
Uh,
like it was
it had
actually such a
16
weird card,
gigabytes of HBM
yeah.
2 though, which is why it was sought after. And also they like literally did not produce like I wouldn't be surprised if you told me they made less than 10,000 of them. Like it was just non-existent.
And it definitely was byproduct. They had like extra
It was definitely
instincts
just hey,
GPUs,
we have
yeah.
these laying around. We'll just put 3 fans on them. We haven't released a GPU in years.
Exactly, I feel like exactly what happened because they're still like they're still producing Vega. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Like if we like look at we had like our first Ryzen 7000 laptop leaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was with a ZenBook 14. So
Okay.
obviously real quick, it's CPU is called a 7730U, right?
Dude, I
And
hate their new
then
naming scheme.
I know the new naming scheme is like tech wise, it makes like it's good. You know what I mean? Like I can if I like have the
You're gonna
reference sheet or
literally
whatever.
need like a
Yeah,
matrix in every store showing how things
yeah.
are, because you're gonna have
Like I
customers
was
complaining like,
that's
"Yeah, I
true.
thought I was getting the newest product, and it's using a architecture 3 generations old, not three,
Yeah,
like 2 or 1."
I'm pretty sure it goes up. It can go up to three. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Actually, that's crazy.
but like obviously like from like a really techie standpoint, like it's fantastic. I mean, like I can like obviously you're not gonna memorize any of them, but like if I had the sheet, I could tell like, oh, this CPU is blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Obviously
Yeah,
that's just dumb because then you just find that somewhere else. But like from like actual consumer standpoint, it's gonna be very hard to like memorize all these numbers.
for sure.
But 75 watts, um, watt hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly, it's same from last year. They didn't change that at all. Which
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, the ZenBook normally gets good battery life, so I don't think it's that big of a deal, right?
That's honestly like pretty big for a 14-inch laptop. Like the
No, for sure.
G14 has like a 77, but it also has a whole GPU in it. So
Mm,
and a Ryzen
and
9.
yeah, and this one, I think we're also getting the ZenBook is also gonna get Ryzen 5 in it.
Mm,
Then 16 gigabytes of LPDDR4X. Big on
okay.
that. So that's interesting. And then I think there's not that much else they've done to it, right?
Mhm.
There's still two USB-C ports, HDMI, USB-A, Wi-Fi 6E. There's PCI E3 SSD.
Yeah.
And then that's the only thing we've seen so far. And then really what the kicker about this is So if you take this naming scheme, this 7730, right?
Yeah.
That implies Zen 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with Vega. So we're still
Actually,
getting Vega. Yeah, that like I forget which number it is, but like it implies like that naming scheme implies that it's coming with Vega.
why'd they do that?
I have no idea because I thought RDNA 2 definitely be more
Like
like
RDNA 2 is
energy
like
efficient.
already there in like Ryzen 6000 processors.
Exactly, yeah.
That's crazy.
'Cause I don't, it's they've definitely like it's actually crazy if you look at Vega. They've done like maybe 3 or 4 node shrinks on Vega. Like
Mm-hmm.
Vega's been like I like the only way I could see that is because I know Vega's always been starved on memory, right?
Yeah.
So unless the somehow like we have more cache, we have like faster bandwidth,
Mm-hmm.
that's the only way I can see that actually being somewhat like you're getting a performance increase out of the GPU. You know what I mean? Like what yeah, so I have a Vega GPU, right? The Vega 8 because 8 cores or like 8 GPU
Mm-hmm.
cores. Um is it 8 GPU cores? I want to say so, but it's 3200 megahertz, right? The
Yeah.
RAM speed. So I mean, they went up to 42,000 basically. So they're kind of trying to reap the benefits of just not having a memory starved Vega, I guess, and just keep costs low.
Yeah.
Because the Vega has to just be dirt cheap right now to produce. There's no way that they've like not
Yeah. I
made
mean, they
it
did the same thing with
super cheap.
Polaris before,
With like
like
on
just keeping
the
Polaris
desktop
around
side.
for a while.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
But then obviously, like, I wish there was more details on like Vega because it's kind of hard finding like details about like what like Vega, the differences they've done to Vega, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then yeah, we'll see. I kind of want to see. It's gonna be really interesting to see the performance. Like, I want to see the GPU performance of like a Vega 2, like not the Vega 2, but like a Vega GPU and a
Mm-hmm.
Zen 4 CPU. I really hope they do put like a better um GPU in the Zen book. It'd be kind of a
Yeah.
bummer if they didn't.
For sure. Also, like if you, I like what I was saying earlier, how I think Radeon RDNA 4 versus RTX 5000, so Blackwell will be the big battle.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, if you look at everything here, I think it leads to it. And the reason I say that is, AMD, who historically has, used being on TSMC's top node as marketing, went with their went with not last, like, 'cause I'm not gonna say the node's bad, but like it's not the best they could have done. They went with TSMC 5 and 6. They also went with
Oh, that's true.
GDR6 memory, which a little bit less power, uh, and it also draws less wattage, which could help with like the
That's true.
lower TDPs of the cards.
Mm-hmm.
2 EPS 8 pins. Like overall, you look at this, right, and it doesn't look like that expensive of a card to make,
That's
and they're
yeah.
still pricing it really high, because they can, because the performance is supposedly there. So if you really think about this, right, in my mind, what I'm seeing here is cards that they were able to make a great margin on, or are able to make a great margin on, that because of the technological advancements they've made architecturally are still very fast without using the fastest memory or without using the best processing node or whatever. Like, just the only one up they have on NVIDIA is they have a lot of uh RAM, but the thing is, NVIDIA historically has not been, accustomed to using a lot of RAM. AMD's always been that player. So if you
That's
look at
true.
this, like, I wouldn't be surprised if their margins are fantastic on these cards. So this is probably them gearing up for getting the cash they need to really go to war on RDNA 4 versus Blackwell. Because and like there's been a lot of reports, if NVIDIA can't figure out how to go chiplet for Blackwell, which now it's seeming unlikely, it could be a huge L for them. Uh, and if AMD is able to get closer on closing those feature sets and bring in more compute performance instead of raw gaming performance, you could see a massive tide switch. Especially if they show pedigree with this generation in making sure drivers work well and there's no real hiccups, because there always is with AMD cards on launch. There's always huge
Yeah.
hiccups that reviewers complain about. And AMD has increasingly improved their driver reputation little by little. If they really get them stable out the gate this time, we could see a real war in like 3 or 4 years.
No, for sure. I know Frank Azor, when he was talking on the live stream, I think after the
Mm-hmm.
presentation, he was talking about how like the reason why they didn't use the new 12 pin and they're still using the 8 pin is that it's like they didn't, it was too short of a time period of development, I think. They
Mm-hmm.
also obviously it was a big
It
architecture
looks like they
change.
didn't need it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it was a big architecture change, right? Because you went from monolithic to chiplet, but
Yeah.
they wanted to keep the rest of the board same, so they could not overcomplicate RDNA 3.
Mm-hmm.
You just had the architecture change, but you're not changing that much, the surrounding board or the PCB.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they're really trying to bank on having RDNA 3 being somewhat um. They also said it can scale up to 3 GHz.
Less tedious.
Yeah, less
Less
tedious.
growing
It's
pains.
less growing pains. And then what happens is you do these refreshes on the GPU, right? Like the same thing I was saying, how we went from a XT model, XTX, right?
Mm-hmm.
On Navi, 2 whatever on 21. And then you do these refreshes and you're getting these performance gains just from maturity of the node. And
Yeah,
then that's going to give you more time for um RDNA 4, which I feel and that's where AMD is going to sell big on.
for sure.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think, man, I can't wait for RDNA 4 versus Blackwell. Um, I mean, I'll probably have to stick with NVIDIA because of CUDA, but it'd be nice to see a real even fight. Uh, but yeah, I don't see companies adopting AMD's compute instead of CUDA anytime soon. Uh, but again, AMD has to keep trying, because if they can convincingly year after year put their best foot forward, maybe companies will.
You know what's interesting about NVIDIA's? Well, I know with it's called ROCm, right? The the AMD. Yeah, it's like their version of CUDA.
Mm-hmm.
I know for Blender, they just gave up on it. Not they
Yeah.
gave up, but they did HIP, which is that it's just a translation layer. It
Mm-hmm.
gets the CUDA instructions and it translates it, which is surprising because they did see a performance increase, right, from using their own to just translating the CUDA
Oh yeah.
instructions. But obviously, there needs to be a point where they actually get their ROCm right, their
Yeah.
version, their
No, it
equivalent of
makes
CUDA to
sense,
actually
because
be
if
good enough.
you the worst instance of it is in Blender. In Blender, dude, AMD gets stomped.
No, yeah,
And when I say
like
stomp, I mean literally ragdolled around. The 6900 XT was 1/4 of the performance of a 3090 Ti.
no, it's insane. Yeah, AMD really needs to step up on that type of driver features.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not even them. It's the fact that developers aren't willing to, code for AMD because they have such a bad track record.
No,
So that's what I'm
exactly.
saying. They
Yeah,
have to prove the fact that they deserve developers to put in time to give those features to professionals. So it's kind of those weird things where someone has to move first, right? Either
yeah,
professionals have to buy the cards, AMD has to go spend some money, or developers have to give an encode for it. Or they can all three start moving slowly together. Something has to
that's
happen,
true.
because the thing is, all three parties are important. Because professionals are the only people that care about blender speed, and they're probably not willing to go to AMD because again, time is money, and they can't
Yeah.
be willing to deal with driver issues or slow cards.
Yeah.
Developers are seeing these professionals that are literally every single one are using NVIDIA and saying, well, no need to code for AMD then. And then AMD's looking at it saying, well, I guess that isn't our market. So someone has to make a move. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. I feel like it has to be AMD though, because um,
I agree. They're the one
it
that can
just
afford to make a
they're the ones
move.
that can afford to. I mean, but I feel like honestly, prediction though, I feel like we're gonna see either like a ROCM update or just some overhaul because we've
Mm-hmm.
seen OpenGL double increase in OpenGL, right?
Mm-hmm.
Performance. And I remember because I was like, especially like with like on the laptop or like on my computer back home with RX 580, I was like, it's insane. Like it ran fine Minecraft, but like when you're playing with mods and anything, I'm like, it's insane. Just like the performance I just wasn't getting with the 580. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone was like, it's. I was trying to look if you could do because like it also was around that time people started trying to do OpenGL to Vulkan wrappers, right?
Mm.
Because then you'd actually like that's like one of the only places where AMD does beat NVIDIA is in Vulkan performance, right?
Okay.
Because they also used to write the Mantle API before that. Again, that was AMD's like
Yeah.
that was the predecessor to Vulkan. So obviously like the and AMD GPUs are like not built for you, I mean, but like it
Mm-hmm.
was in mind when they designed that.
Yeah.
And then we've seen OpenGL performance get right, almost doubled when it literally was just like as a fact that it wasn't going to be updated anymore because no one uses OpenGL. But
Mm-hmm.
apparently, it's actually really big on like the professional side, OpenGL performance, but not
Okay.
obviously on the gaming side. There's the only game you can name that uses OpenGL is what Minecraft. What other games use it? None, right?
I can't name anymore now.
Apparently, OpenGL for like we're talking about stats or like somehow like probability, like rendering and all that stuff. Apparently, is like really big.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had DirectX 11, right? Almost what 20-30% increase in performance overall.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like Vulkan and NVIDIA or Vulkan and DirectX 12 they're gonna leave. We're not gonna see like that a difference in that. And I feel like really their next focus has to be these types of like non-gaming uh
Mm-hmm.
like suite of uh tools, you know what
Well,
I mean?
the reason I'm not too optimistic, right, is the fact that that would be true if AMD didn't split their divisions up, because now they have two architectures. They have CDNA and RDNA.
That's
So
true.
what if
I
they
feel like
just
they
say,
had to do that
RDNA
though.
strictly
Yeah.
gaming and streaming and nothing else?
Then but who's gonna I guess so, but I
Because
feel like
like you won't be able to convince streamers to buy to that point. Because at the moment, Nvidia still has the better engines, and I think that's still gonna stay the same. And the fact that they probably want good video editing, but
yeah.
there's a lot of dudes who just really be gaming. Like we saw it with there's a lot of people that don't care about ray tracing, even though how cool it is and how fast it is now. There's still
Mm-hmm.
people that are just gonna go strictly off of rasterization performance. Maybe they just want to
Exactly.
capitalize on that for now. Or maybe one day we see CDNA and RDNA merge back. Who
I
knows?
feel like it's definitely gonna come in a bit. I feel like not in a bit, but like in the future we'll see it merge again. But I feel like they just had to because like they kind of just were winning at nothing with it
Yeah,
combined. You know
no,
what I
I
mean?
get why they split.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel like but that doesn't remind me. I feel like definitely I feel like AMD's focus, like I said, OpenGL, DirectX 11.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're gonna get like Blender, not Blender, but like you know what I mean, like rendering support, like the increase in that, or I think it's gonna come in coding because I know this was a while ago, but like apparently when AMD did encoding and stuff,
Yeah.
they didn't have B frames in their encoder,
Mm-hmm.
and I really there's no B frames like there's iframes and there's B frames, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so NVIDIA did have B frames, and so like there were some tests that I saw that they did, and like AMD's like quality score, because like quality of the image and stuff,
Yeah.
like when you're using all those frames and stuff, like jumped dramatically. Like it's within a few points of NVIDIA now.
Okay.
And so obviously, like, quality wise, they're the same as NVIDIA. Then obviously the performance is where AMD is not right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if they're
Yeah.
slowly introducing fixes to their encoding drivers, right, we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna see like that massive like push eventually where it's like, oh, we've just increased performance by like X amount. Do you know what I mean?
Well, let's say like on the hardware level, right? Let's say that NVIDIA and AMD have, let's say, even the same exact hardware media engine encoder, which is probably
Yeah.
not true. NVIDIA has two of them. NVIDIA on RTX 4000, I don't know if you know this, they went with
Okay.
dueling AV1 encoding.
Yeah.
They have two media engines. So that's still going to be an issue. The one thing I could see them maybe get a small win on is the fact that NVIDIA software locks, and I don't know why or if they still have to do this, but they software lock the amount of encoding streams going out.
Mm-hmm.
So on most cards it was 2, now it's 3. So you can have like a Twitch, a YouTube, and I don't know,
Okay.
Twitter or something, right? All streaming with AV1 or H.264 or whatever you want. They software lock it to 3 when like something on like their quadros, it's like a
It's
lot,
yeah.
like 16 or maybe even unlimited. So even though they have the same encoders on both, it's just that quadros have like other software things. Like everything's pretty much software with quadros or whatever they call them now, because they're not technically quadros anymore. But AMD could get a subtle win there if they're able to handle like 4, 5, 6, 7 streams.
Oh, no, that's
But
true.
again, the
I feel like,
people
yeah,
who need 4, 5, 6, 7 streams, are they really going to be buying an AMD card? It's a
that's
weird
true.
situation.
I feel like it's definitely like if the card's priced well, right, and like you really do need those 7, 8 streams or anything above 3, right? Like
Probably have a second
you just
PC to begin with.
that's true, yeah. But then let's say you don't, right? Like it's kind of just like I guess I have to use AMD. You know what I mean? Like it's the opposite. You're like it might suck
Yeah.
ass, but like I do have to like I need these like qualities. Same thing with
Yeah, like
like
for now, I'd have to
for
before I
now,
can
yeah.
afford
Same
another
thing like
computer.
maybe there's some people that pick AMD this generation just because of the DisplayPort 2.1. There's just something they need with DisplayPort 2.1, right? That they
Maybe.
can't get with
There's
like
no DisplayPort
1.4.
2.1 monitors. I can't see that this generation. I think this generation people pick it because simply price to performance in rasterization. Because I've seen some of the estimates and leaks for ray tracing performance. It's gonna get smoked,
Yeah.
man. Like it's gonna actually still get
No, I saw
smoked.
the ray tracing is still bad, but then raster wise was it between it's like
It's really
7 to
good.
15%.
So like realistically, AMD's argument is we're giving you a lot of VRAM. Here's a really good raster performance, and even though the price still kind of sucks, better price than the other guys giving you. That's our
Yeah.
argument, and the truth is that's probably enough, because a lot of people are tired of Nvidia now.
No, especially I know AIBs too. Honestly, like
Mm-hmm.
EVGA definitely left at the right moment. I feel like
Yeah.
hindsight 2020, you know what I mean? But
Nah, it's not hindsight, bro. This shit's in like development for like so long.
no, for sure. But like with the pin problem right now, the 12 pin problem, like it's definitely
Oh
like
yeah,
is like a 2020 hindsight.
for sure. They also got lucky because what's it called? Uh, Nvidia's cooler this generation was so good. Like they're like Nvidia's coolers this generation is like so surprisingly good.
Yeah.
AIBs are kind of getting the short end of the stick. So yeah,
No,
they
yeah.
definitely left at the right time, and maybe they knew that.
Well, I saw this thing about how with AMD AIB partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like so AMD, you know how AMD's toting all this efficiency, right? With the
Yeah.
we're pulling less, we're doing blah
Oh,
blah
they're gonna
blah.
have higher wattage cards.
They're gonna let the AIBs do the higher wattage cards, right? Because I think they can go up to 3 pin, 8 pins on that, right?
Yep.
Like a right, so exactly 24 pins basically. And
Mm-hmm.
you let the AIB go. Oh, we're up to I think Sapphire said they're up to 2.8 gigahertz, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so but AMD can still obviously top performance all they want, but then I feel like this is a generation where you don't buy reference for AMD. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, this is kind of like a Sapphire thing. Like, the Sapphire cards were like insane. Like, I remember, oh my God, the GCN models, right? Like, the 580, like, when they hit, like, the Sapphire 590, and then they got, like, the golden sample. Do you remember that one? It
No,
was
I
like that.
do.
That was just crazy. The amount they were, like, able to push out of that card and, like, memory clock speeds and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're gonna see that same type of just, like,
Dude,
these
which I'm like
AIBs are gonna, like,
excited for. Remember, like
I
I
know.
know we didn't really buy computers back then, but like AIB board cards used to matter like a lot.
No, for sure, yeah.
Like a lot, a lot. It's not gonna obviously matter as much as back then because they're kind of like hamstringed. Like they
Mhm.
got their hands tied behind their back on like the level of customization they have over the board.
Yep.
But like, dude, like Sapphire, especially back in the day, used to go crazy. So, I'm really excited to see like yeah, like the Sapphire, like the pulses or the red and liquid devils are probably gonna be
Oh, the power,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, the power color red and liquid devils are probably gonna be some interesting cards this generation.
No,
Hopefully, they're a
yeah,
lot
definitely.
faster. It'd really be interesting if they were.
It would definitely let off but that's really good for the IBs though. I feel like this is definitely like AMD's like like you just stick with us over NVIDIA, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
we'll be able to provide you with you know what I mean, like we're letting you have all this headroom with like
Yeah.
blocks and stuff. Like we're not giving you just like a super already
It also
like
helps
no
by
headroom.
giving like it also helps by like giving AIBs like a mind share and enthusiast minds. Because the truth
Yeah,
is
that's
like on
true.
Nvidia side, right? And like say on the highest end of enthusiasts, if you're water cooling, you always went with like Nvidia's reference design because it's just easier to
Oh,
find a
that's
water
true.
block
Yeah.
for. But like on AMD, if you can't give enough power through those two EPS 8 pins, maybe you have to go to like a liquid devil.
Yeah,
So
I don't
yeah.
think I've ever seen like an AMD reference liquid cooler. I think there was one in the RDNA 2, but
Mm-hmm.
Sapphire built that and just had the RD like the R logo, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But like AMD really I don't think ever did
Which is
liquid
honestly a cool thing
cooled
for
cards, yeah.
AIBs since they get the
No, it
control
definitely
over.
is, yeah. I definitely want to see how this like what RDNA 3 could do when you're pushing the wattage and it's liquid cool. That's definitely gonna be an insane card to see.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But yeah, there's not much more to talk about that. Hopefully, we get some more information the next month.
For
But
sure.
most likely, we're not gonna have anything to talk about it until December 13th, and hopefully, we have a lot of good news on that day. But yeah, honestly, I I think that's it. This week's episode's obviously a fair bit shorter, I think, than other
For sure.
weeks.
Yeah, I think so,
But
yeah.
that's fine. I mean, October is normally a really busy month for tech, so I'm completely cool with that. This is probably still a little long for like what most of the year's episodes will be.
For sure, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, like normal, if you're one of the two people that watches this,
Yes,
leave
sir.
suggestions in the comments. Uh, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye.
See you guys.